Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's 48th Annual Phoenix Awards Dinner. Our program is about to begin. Please take your seats. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's 48th Annual Legislative Conference and to this evening's Phoenix Awards Dinner. We will open the program with the national anthem, followed by the Negro National Anthem. Both songs will be performed by Michael Entwa Ijumwich.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Please give a warm round of applause for Mr. Michael Entwa Ijumwich. Please welcome to the stage our mistress and master of ceremony, actress, producer, author, entrepreneur, and star of the new CBS daytime talk show, Face the Truth, Vivica A. Fox. and actor, activist, educator, entrepreneur, currently starring as Jacob Greenleaf on the Oprah Winfrey Network's hit original drama series, Greenleaf, Lamon Rucker.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hi, y'all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 48th Annual Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's Legislative Conference and to this evening's Phoenix Award Dinner. This year's conference theme, The Dream Still Demands, reflects on the 50th anniversary of the historic year that changed America. It recognizes that we are again at a pivotal moment. It demands that we activate ourselves around the collective action we must take to get our nation back on track again to realizing Dr. King's dream.
I'm sure, as you all know, you spent the last few days in intense discussions about issues that impact our communities and about preparing ourselves for the work ahead to move our communities forward during this critical moment in our nation's history. Tonight, we come together to lift up our leadership, to honor some of our heroes and sheroes,
Yes,
to hear some good music and a soul-stirring word.
I know that's right. Ladies and gentlemen, you see the hashtag? The hashtag is CBCF, ALC 18. Now do us a favor. Feel free to live tweet the high points of this evening to your friends who couldn't be here tonight. This program, I'm telling y'all, it is going to be jam-packed with all black everything. All right, black love,
Yeah.
black leadership,
Yeah.
black excellence.
Yes.
And I am here for all of that.
As am
Are
I.
you?
Yes, ma'am,
Yes.
no doubt about it.
All right.
All right, so the lovely Ms. Vivica Fox and I are glad you are here for it because you're here for it, and I'm happy that I get to be here with you, be honest with you. So listen, this is just one of the many reasons why I love my job.
And I love my work
And
too.
here's another reason right here next to me.
All right, well, let's get things started by inviting the mayor who shut down that $90 million military parade to welcome us to her beautiful, beautiful city.
That was about to be a $90 million mistake.
Okay.
All right, let's do that. Please, ladies and gentlemen, as you take your seats, or I think it's actually appropriate for you to remain standing for this moment.
I know
Please
that's
give
right.
a warm round of applause to the incredible mayor of my beautiful city, the District of Columbia, the Honorable Muriel Bowser.
Yes!
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Muriel Bowser, and I am Mayor of Washington, D.C. I'm honored to be here this evening to welcome you to the best city in the world. I want to also acknowledge the members of the Washington, D.C. Council, all the members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and a special warm welcome to the chairman, Chairman Richmond, and our foundation chair, Representative Jackson Lee. Tonight, we're here to celebrate the Congressional Black Caucus's 48th Legislative Conference. When I think of your theme this evening, courage, resilience, and leadership, the first things that come to mind are a few people in this town who seem to lack all three. They seem, in fact, to be a dime a dozen. But still in this room, we know that there's so many more champions who stand up and speak up for our people day in and day out. I think of our own warrior on the Hill, our Congresswoman, Eleanor Holmes Norton, who stands on the House floor, gets things done for Washington, D.C., and explains time after time why the 700,000 people who call Washington, D.C. home deserve a vote in the House of Representatives and 2 votes in the Senate. And it's not just in government where we see leadership like Congresswoman Norton. I even think of events like last weekend, watching Serena Williams stand up not just for herself, but every woman, especially every African American woman who has ever been held to a different standard than her male peers and then penalized for pointing it out. This week, this CBC week, is about ensuring solutions. Congress is creating and actually working on the legislations that matters in cities like ours. The challenges we face in healthcare or public safety or education are neither inevitable or retractable. We see better futures in the hard-working people that we see in cities across America, and like in the campaigns of Ben Jealous, Stacey Abrams, and Andrew Gillum. So we come together to celebrate the good, to recognize our progress, and to push ourselves to do better. And that's exactly what we're doing right here in Washington, D.C. We do this through affordable housing, through better job training programs, and by improving and investing in our schools and healthier communities. And we stay committed to this work because we know it has real-life consequences, because the policies and programs that we create have the power to change lives, the power to level the playing field, and build a more equal America. So once again, thank you for being here, and thank you for your courage, resilience, and leadership.
Thank you, beautiful Mayor Bowser, for that warm welcome. You know, I don't know about you, but this is your hometown, all right? But I want to let you know that I have really come to love D.C. I really have.
Hey,
yeah.
I feel you. So
Yeah.
let's give it up for D.C.
D.C. in the house.
Well, yeah, you know I love D.C. Nothing but love for this incredible city. This is one of my hometowns. I grew up here. Graduate of the illustrious Duke Ellington School of Performing Arts.
Wow.
Shout out Duke Ellington, all the wonderful supporters and fellow alumni. And for me, this was, and always will be Chocolate City. And that's just one of the many reasons why I've developed my love of beautiful, strong black women.
Well, that explains a lot. Because I saw a video of you talking about how much you truly love beautiful black women.
Oh, well, it is well documented. Ain't no shame in my game whatsoever.
I know that's right, brother.
And listen, I had to give mad respect for, the countless women who've shaped my life, been the backbone of our communities as well. And matter of fact, my beautiful mother is here with us this evening. Hi, Mommy, where you at?
Where's Mommy?
All right, she's out there somewhere. Hey.
All right, we're going to make sure we find her a little bit later, because
she's well known here,
Mama
so
like
you'll know she's in the room.
Come on stage and take pictures and do all of that stuff with Mama and them, right?
Yeah,
all right.
No doubt.
Black women have rocked this year. They've rocked this year's conference. There were so many discussions about how black women are deciding elections now.
Absolutely.
That's right. By doing the grassroots campaign work, getting out the vote, and advocating for the issues that impact communities of colors. And I want to say, I'm pretty proud to know that my sister stepped up and made it do what it do.
Well, you always do. And speaking of which, it's time to bring up one of those many beautiful, strong black women of the Congressional Black Caucus.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee, who is representing the great state of Texas. Come on now.
Wow, what a beautiful evening this is. Thank you, Mayor Muriel Bowser, for being the great mayor that you are and leading a great city with a great Congresswoman, Eleanor Holmes Norton. Would all of you give the mayor and this great city a big hand? I would ask as we begin that you could take your seats, because there's a lot of good knowledge and a good greetings that we want you to be able to hear. So we ask that you take your seats. Let me first of all offer our greatest concern to our friends who are now suffering in the Southeast with Hurricane Florence. Each moment that I take to get an update, it reminds me of the importance of a government that works, for the people there are in need as we see the rescue beginning and the loss of life mounting. I ask for your prayers and reflection on those people. And I also ask you to acknowledge, if you would, Alma Adams, who made her way here. Her district is one of those in North Carolina. Please give her a hand, Congresswoman. Thank you. And then as well, would you please acknowledge G.K. Butterfield, who's driving up. I don't know if he has made it here. And he and his district. Thank you, Mr. G.K. Butterfield. Where are you? Thank you very much. We will be standing with all of you. Give them a very big hand. Now let me begin by acknowledging as well the greatest board of directors that one could ever find, and that is the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Board of Directors, standing alongside of the Congressional Black Caucus, of which my chairman will acknowledge. If you are a board member, would you please stand at this time? Board members of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, give them a very strong applause. Let me hear it. I think you realize that we're gathered here today because the theme of this year's conference, The Dream Still Demands, reflects on the 50th anniversary of the historic year that changed America. It also recognizes that we are again at a pivotal moment, and it demands that we reactivate ourselves around the collective action we must take to get our nation back on track. Dr. King's dream is what we are standing on. There is an African tradition called Sankofa, which advises us to look back to go forward. This week we have reflected on Dr. King's dream, and we have hosted Dr. Bernice King, who received the Woman of Truth Award. And we reflected on that dream and all that we have accomplished toward that realization. This might be a happy time. We could do the happy dance because we have done a lot. And as we look forward to the work we know that we must do to ensure that all Americans have the opportunities to live their dreams, we know that in this town, in this nation now, many Americans feel that the system is broken if they're immigrant or non-immigrant, if they're black or white or Hispanic, if they're young or old, if they're Asian. They feel that maybe this is not the place for them. But I disagree. For the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, we stand with all of them and we fight for opportunity. Tonight we look back on all that we heard, seen, and learned during this year's conference. We have had conversations about an array of topics, such as criminal justice reform, and we are going to review and continue to reach out and ask how a young black man could die in his own apartment at the hands of government. Community health is one of our issues, economic development, black women and civic engagement. and many other issues that have unique impacts on our communities. We have a wonderful opportunity to renew our spirits this evening, to lift each other up, to sing along, and to fill up our spiritual cups. We've got to get ready. We've got to remember that if you have no other action to do, that action can be vote, 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 work, work, work. All of us can do that. So I hope that when we go back to our communities, we'll be energized to do the work that we all know is critical to move our collective agenda. Might I say this before I close? Might I take just a moment to pause and ask you to remember? I want you to remember these mothers. Many of them are in this room. I want to thank you for embracing them and surrounding them with love. But lest you forget, I want to remind you of Sabrina Fulton, the mother of Trayvon Martin. Sabrina is here tonight. I want to remind you of Geneva Reed Yield, the mother of Sandra Bland. I want to remind you of Lucy McBath, the mother of Jordan Davis. Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, the mother of Michael Brown, and Allison Jean, the mother of 26-year-old Botham Jean, shot in his own apartment, and the mother of Tamir Rice, the mother of Walter Scott, the mother of those from Dallas to Louisiana. I remind you of that because as we are joyful this evening, we need to be reminded that work still needs to be done. Even this beautiful evening with old and new friends, potential partners, and colleagues, next week we get back to work. And my friend, General Eric Holder, understands the work that we have to do. With that, it is my pleasure to be able to bring up one of my colleagues who knows the work, the vote, the energy we have to engage in because he leads the caucus with purpose and passion. Ladies and gentlemen, he is our colleague and our friend, and on the battlefield he is strong. Vote, 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 work, 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 and celebrate the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Cedric Richmond.
Just for future notice, because I know the program is long and I come back, rap music's my preference. I just want y'all to know that. Look, as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, I have the privilege and the honor of bringing forth the shared vision and agenda of 48 congressional representatives, 46 in the House, 2 in the Senate. Together we represent 78 million Americans and 24% of the total U.S. population. We fight together for a policy agenda that benefits the interests of all of our constituents and ultimately all Americans. Our constituents care about issues like criminal justice reform and eliminating barriers to entry, access to world-class public education that will prepare our children to be the leaders and the innovators of the next economy, quality health care and the elimination of health disparities, supporting the creation and growth of small businesses through access to capital, contracts, and counseling, protections for workers and opportunities to earn a comfortable living, unrestricted access to the voting and foreign policy initiatives in the African American and other parts of the diaspora around the world that will ensure fundamental dignity and human rights. The next economy, which is driven by technology and innovation, offers new opportunities to level the playing field for our communities. New skills in the digital economy must be acquired by everyone who will participate in the future of our workforce. Barriers that have been erected over centuries in this country could become more entrenched without policies that protect against the transfer of old biases into our new system. Everything from automated policing, financial technology, health and education technologies to business ecosystems. America is on the verge of a new economic transformation. And not only must we be positioned to take advantage of these new opportunities, but we should be ready to lead. As our spouse's chair, Mrs. Veazey, said earlier, the key to our success in this mission is to engage the entire village, our institutions, and our allies around the collective action that is needed to move our communities forward. Looking around this room and thinking about all the brain power, talents, and energy we have here and in our communities, I'm inspired and looking forward to the work ahead. We have an exciting new wave of leadership coming forward, with candidates of color breaking ground at every level of elected office. In fact, I want to take a quick moment, just a quick moment, to bring out a couple of those individuals. They're not going to speak. But what I want you all to do is recognize a phenomenal black Spelman woman who is running for governor of the great state of Georgia. So with that, I want to bring out my sister, who will be the next governor of Georgia, the Stacey Abrams. Stay there, Stacey. It's okay. Stay there. I got it. And as a Morehouse man, I will always support my Spelman sister. But on this November 6th, she's not the only African American we have that's running and has been nominated for governor. So with that, I want us to keep both Andrew Gillum and Ben Jealous in our prayers, our thoughts. Just like Florida A&M, better to be late than not to be here. I want you all to keep these two phenomenal people in your prayers and your hearts. But it would not hurt if you reached into your back pocket and kept them in your pocketbook also. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Stacey, not only for what you're doing, but being a role model for the next generation of little black boys and little black girls who will see that they can accomplish whatever they can. So thank you very much. On that note, I want to bring forward two dynamic leaders who are showing up and driving the agenda for our communities and true American principles in the Senate. I am proud to introduce the co-chairs of this year's annual legislative conference. Please give a warm welcome to my junior CBC members, Senator Cory Booker and Senator Kamala Harris.
So thank you everyone, and thank you our incredible leader, Cedric Richmond. Senator Booker and I were just talking about your leadership and your strength and how it inspires us. So what an incredible night. For 5 decades, the CBC has inspired and rejuvenated us. And I attended my first CBC meeting and conference when I was still an undergraduate student at Howard University. And this conference always reminds us of where we came from and where we've got to go. The phoenix is a creature who rises from the ashes. At these Phoenix Awards, we celebrate our own capacity to overcome the challenges we face. And CBC, I know we are prepared to rise to meet this moment because this is a pivotal moment in the history of our country. 55 years after the March on Washington, we know the dream still demands that we march and shout for justice. Because let's be clear, when Dr. King talked about the dream, it wasn't about being asleep. In the face of injustice, he charged us to be awake, to be active, and to be engaged. And so we know that the dream still demands that we fight to reform a criminal justice system that is broken, including our money bail system. We know the dream demands that we fight to end the outrageous rates of maternal mortality among Black women. And the dream still demands that we be accountable to our future, because we know that years from now, our children and our grandchildren are going to ask us, they will look in our eyes and ask us, where were you during that pivotal moment, during that inflection point? And I know the people in this room will not simply say how we felt, we will say what we did. We will tell them that for these next 52 days, we registered people to vote. We took people to the polls. We called and we texted and we told everyone what is at stake. Because our country is better than this, and let's prove it these next 52 days. Thank you, CBC.
All right.
And now, Senator Cory Booker.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It is good to see everyone out here gathered for an annual tradition that is about nourishing. It is about nurturing. It is about empowering us to do our work. But this year, probably more than ever, we must remember who we are and from whence we came. I said it this morning at the prayer breakfast. If you look out at this room, you understand that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. We are the dream of a slave under lash and chain. We are the dream of a sharecropper who pushed their plow in hopes for a brighter day. We are the dreams of the domestic, of the Pullman porter, of the Tuskegee airman, of the civil rights marcher. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. And now this is not the time for us to be timid. It's not the time for us to crouch down in a defensive position. In fact, as we say that the dream still demands, I want you to know it is also the time that we, in this generation, dream courageous dreams again. We must have bigger dreams because the future is determined by the size of our dreams. We must understand at a time that they are trying to turn back civil rights, at the time that they're trying to turn back voting rights, at the time that they're trying to turn back women's rights, that we must stand up and again say to this nation, we will not be turned around. We will not go back. We have dreams for a better future. We have dreams that will make our ancestors proud. And so I call upon all of us gathered here together. It is time for us to dream again. We must dream of a nation that has a criminal justice system that's not about injustice, but about justice. We must dream that every child in our nation has access to health care and a great education and wonderful, safe housing. We must dream that we live in a nation where we are not just judged by the color of our skin, but also not condemned by a president on Twitter. We must dream again that we will flourish in this nation, that we will be the conscience of this country, and that we will one day fill out the promise of our land, that this is a nation with liberty and justice for all. It is not a time to curl up. It is not a time to give up. It is not a time to shut up. It is a time to rise up, to speak up, to dream up. And if we dream like that, and if we follow our dreams with work and sweat and grit, then we will give to the next generation. We will give to the next generation a land of which they will be proud. Thank you very much. God bless everyone.
Sorry about that, y'all. We're fans sometimes, too. Let's give another round of applause for Senator Booker and Senator Hooper. Yes. Oh, that was the wrong ones. No, Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. I'm sorry. Yes. They were senators. Okay, my bad. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for dinner.
The moment you've all been waiting for.
Yes.
But first of all, we're going to make sure that we bless this food, of course. Amen?
Amen.
All right, Pastor Greenleaf is talking to you now. Do I have your attention? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, representing Missouri's 5th Congressional District. Reverend Cleaver will offer the invocation before our meal. God bless you.
Enjoy your dinner.
If you care anything about the Lord, please shut up. Let us pray. Dear Lord, on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation and those who have gathered in this great hall, I express thanksgiving for your loving provisions, for the causes so many of us have adopted, and for this food so fragrant and fresh. Most holy, righteous, and everywhere God, we pray that this food will restore hope in our ability to arouse the conscience of this nation, to recognize that they are men and women who also must adopt a cause. And may they recognize that they are living in a nation where, at least temporarily, wrong is seated on the throne, and we must not allow it to stand. We pray that this food tonight will enable us to have visionary ideas to rally the confused and informationally defective citizenry, that we might make November a time to remember. Father, as some anxiously await the end of this prayer so they can eat, we remember that we were slaves and you unshackled us. We were cotton pickers on a plantation and you picked us up. We were scrubbing floors in homes that were not our own, and you scrubbed us clean that we might scrub the filth of this contemporary political age. We were in second-class pupilship in segregated schools when you picked some of us up to school the haters at a time like this. So, no sir, no sir, no sir, Lord. We recognize that you are a power that is so mighty that all the armies equipped with 10,000 missiles cannot burn you out. All the flood waters from 1,000 Katrinas cannot wash you out. All the hounds of hell cannot scare you out. We are not afraid to declare this night, Lord, as we eat from this table, that you are our God because you are the only God. You are God all by yourself. And so, God, neither Nazis nor nationalists, neither bombastic tweets nor tax breaks for the elite can move you out. And this, oh Lord, is not fake news. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats while dinner is served so that our servers may move through the halls efficiently. Thank you and bon appetit.
Very brief and worthwhile. So, can we just get your attention for a moment? If necessary, I'll start calling names. Roland Martin, that's a nice outfit you have, but can you please stop so that we can continue with the program?
Can the beloved sit down? That's what you need to say. The beloved, sit down.
Can the beloved please sit down? Shh, for just one moment. And then we will go back to the program. We're going to deviate and make one presentation while we all still take our seat.
Did you want to say that?
We'll share it. Just you go announce.
Okay.
As many of you are aware, every year at this dinner, the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, we honor individuals who have exemplified excellence in their respective fields and helped to move the ball forward toward true equality of opportunity for all Americans.
We will begin our full awards program after dinner, but we have a very special presentation of our 2018 Adam Clayton Powell Award. Our honoree has been engaged in our discussions this week, but she has a flight this evening, and we are so happy to accommodate her schedule.
Well, the truth is she needs to get back to Georgia for an event later tonight, back to the business of being the first African-American woman nominated for governor in the state of Georgia.
So, everybody, I guess you're wondering who it is. Let's hear a little bit more about her story.
A person of color who is trying to run in a race where people make that seem like it's some sort of hindrance.
My approach is every Democratic voter we can get, especially those who don't think their voices matter, and independent thinkers who realize they are heading down the wrong path if they don't vote for a Democrat this time.
The members of the Congressional Black Caucus are honored to present the 2018 Adam Clayton Powell Award to Stacey Abrams for her groundbreaking accomplishments as a legislator at the local and national levels, improving the well-being of African Americans.
Thank you so much to Chairwoman of the Foundation, Sheila Jackson Lee, to Chair of the Black Caucus, Representative Cedric Richmond, who was my classmate at Morehouse when I was at Spelman, to the co-chairs, the honorary co-chairs, Senators Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, and to the CBC, thank you so much for this honor. As you know, I stand on the cusp of history. In 52 days, I intend to become the very first black woman to ever serve as governor in the history of the United States. But the weight of history is a little bit heavier because we know that this is a year where the next 30 years will be decided, that the governors we elect will sign or veto maps that will set the course of Congress, and that the laws that will pass or fail in the next years will be the ones that decide whether our families can rise up and have the freedom and opportunity to thrive, or whether we will continue to be mired in the evils of voter suppression and mass incarceration and stand your ground and those things that strip us not only of our humanity but of our futures. And so I am honored to accept this award in the name and in the legacy of Adam Clayton Powell, a man who defied every odd but always determined that the future belonged to our people. And so thank you for having me and thank you for this award. Have a wonderful night.
Let's hear it again for soon-to-be Governor Stacey Abrams. So we're setting up a special presentation for you so you all continue to enjoy your dinner and your drinks and your dessert and your beautiful company, and the program will return shortly. We'll be right back. Vivica, sweetheart, you can relax. I got this handle for you. All right, this one's gonna be easy. So everyone, please, if you can take your seats. Bring the hubbub and socializing to a close. I tried to shove what I could down my throat. I hope you all had a little bit more time to enjoy your dinner. Pleasure coming out and having the opportunity to meet a few of you folks. All right, special shout out to our folks at Exxon and some of our other incredible sponsors this evening. Let's give all of our sponsors a big, huge round of applause, please. This is a really, oh, come on, Damon Lester. What's going on, brother? Shout out to NAMAD. There's so many incredible people in this room. I could just really sit here and just, I feel like I'm the audience member actually right now because there's such a plethora of brilliance and power and influence and excellence in this room. So once again, please give yourselves a round of applause. Let's hear it for CBCF 2018. Please don't forget the hashtag CBCF. ALC18 is the hashtag, so I still see a lot of talking and hanging out and socializing. When you guys post and share these pictures and share all the incredible events from the evening and all the wisdom and all the incredible encouraging words that have been shared and will continue to be shared throughout the evening, be sure to include that hashtag, all right? And if I'm in the picture, make sure you tag me, all right? Make sure you tag me at Lamon Rucker, at Lamon Rucker Official. You can even hashtag Greenleaf, hashtag Pray for Jacob. Jeez. Pray for that, brother. Jacob needs as much prayer as he can possibly get. So aside from myself, I'm not sure if you all are aware that my cohort this evening, the beautiful Vivica A. Fox, also has a really, really dynamite new show coming to CBS. It's a daytime talk show, so she may have the opportunity to share a little bit more detail about that. But in addition to your continued support and love for me, let's make sure we support her new program as well and make sure that that thing knocks out all kind of ratings and we have another opportunity to see our powerful sister shine on the small screen as well. All right? All right, so it looks like we're starting to settle in a little bit. I want to make sure everybody can see the beauty and brilliance that's about to take place before us. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, give it up for activist, philanthropist, and Grammy-nominated vocalist, Andra Day.
Would y'all mind if we do one more song? Okay. Would y'all also mind if I take my shoes off now?
It ain't much I'm asking.
this time, we ask the members of the Congressional Black Caucus to please report backstage. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. Andra, can we give her another round of applause? Coming out here giving us that moving experience. Fell back on it. Yes.
Yeah, that was some
That
real
was fabulous.
old school
Okay.
blues.
Yes, didn't we tell you all that we were going to be inspired tonight? Can we please all put our hands together again for Andra Day? Come on, y'all. Show us some love.
Get back to the
Show
future.
us some love. She's been nominated for a Grammy.
What happened? She been nominated?
No, really? She's been nominated for a whole lot of
The
things.
sister came out her shoes.
The sister came out her shoes on.
You know when a sister put on her slippers, something's about to go down. She come out her shoes, it's a problem.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother.
It's a problem.
Okay.
So I mentioned a little earlier about your show. So I threw a little tease out there. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to tease a little more. Give us a little bit more detail on this great daytime show you've got coming up.
My brother, as I told you, I am so thrilled that now I am on television during the daytime, Monday through Friday. I have a new show that just came out called Face the Truth, executive produced by Dr. Phil. And your girl Deborah is the hostess with the mostest, y'all.
Right.
And I have a true team that consists of Aretha Martin, Dr. Judy Hill, Wilson Ricardo, and Judge Gary Merritt. So we're on Monday through Friday, and I'm also very blessed to announce that I'll be back on Empire playing Cookie's older sister, Candace, the bougie one. Yes! There we go. Okay, they know about Empire. All right, and soon y'all gonna all know about Face the Truth. Yes.
Everybody
So
knows.
tell us, what's going on with you? Give us a little tease of what's going on this season.
If one more person asks me, so what's gonna happen on Greenleaf? I can't tell you. Oprah gonna have my job.
Listen, Oprah even said she can't tell anything. She'll have to fire herself. Season 3. So thank you everybody for your incredible support of Greenleaf. All right. Season 3. All right. Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. on network.
Check it out. Tweet about it. All right. Next, we have a very special presentation by theater, television, and film actor Russell Hornsby.
Mr. Hornsby screened his upcoming film, The Hate You Give, during ALC. Please watch this incredibly powerful trailer and then welcome Mr. Hornsby to talk more about combating hate and bias through dialogue and activism.
Watch the film, y'all.
Man, you come down here from my music, but you listen to this old stuff.
Old stuff? You better get up out of here with all that fun. It's the truth.
I got a boyfriend.
Yeah, I heard. It's all good.
Really?
We've been together our whole life, so we got time.
My name is Star. 2 R's. Daddy made me that. Garden Heights. Mama and Daddy says our life is here because our people are here. We got Mr. Rubin's Barbecue, Mr. Lewis's Barbershop, and Daddy's Store. The high school is where you go to get jumped, high, or pregnant. We don't go there. Williamson is another world, so when I'm here, I'm Star version 2.
Yo, those kids are lit.
Basically, Williamson Star doesn't give anyone a reason to call her ghetto, and I hate myself for doing it. Until the weekend comes around.
I get those goosebumps every time.
What's up? Where you been at? Man, I know you be hanging with all the white kids.
Shut up.
Out of the car.
Yo, Star, you okay?
Go back where he told you. Come on, I'm not playing. Go back where he told you. What did you do?
Today, Garden Heights is reeling after the shooting of a 17-year-old black teenager by a white police officer.
We live in a complicated world.
It doesn't seem that complicated to me.
Violence, brutality. It's the same story, just a different name.
It's best if she didn't testify.
He's threatening her. It's about more I need to speak for him.
When you ready to talk, you talk. I don't want nobody to make you be quiet. I don't need you to start asking.
Thank you. Good evening. As was stated before, my name is Russell Hornsby, and I just want to say how much of an honor, a privilege, and a joy it is to stand before this beautiful black sea of dignitaries, luminaries, and statespeople. I'd first just like to say thank you to Congresswoman Val Demings and the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation for being such gracious hosts for us this weekend for the Hate You Give. But more importantly, Congresswoman Demings, I'd like to say thank you for being such a fierce contributor and supporter of our film. And just want to say thank you. The Hate You Give. I am really proud of this film, proud of the work we did. It was a labor of love for all of us. It's a film about love, it's a film about passion, it's a film about families coming together, being together, about families finding ways to overcome injustice. It's about a young girl, Star Carter, 16 years old, about her finding her voice, finding her authentic voice, and having the courage and the willingness to speak out, to speak up, and combat injustice, and combat evil, and combat hate. And I just want to implore you to go out and support The Hate You Give. We really need your support, but it's because it's a film for us and by us. And so I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and have a great evening. Thank you. Let's hear it one more time for my brother Russell Hornsby and The Hate You Give. Very excited to see that.
And you all got to make sure that when the film comes out that you all absolutely support it. You know, if you're on Twitter, hashtag about it. Did we find out whether or not their website, if they've got a website? I'm sure the website is probably
we'll get that
The
played
Hate
up there
You
one
Give.
more time
We'll
so we
get
get that
up there
vital
so
information.
that you can support it. And when you go to the movie theater, please make sure your ticket stub says The Hate You Give.
Yeah.
So that they get full credit.
That's still
because
going.
that movie looked like it was educational
Yes,
and moving
yes.
and things that we need.
Yeah, and I think it's great because, you know, we see another kind of little urban teen love story. We haven't seen that in a little while. And then unfortunately, another example of some of the, foolish police brutality that we continue to see.
Yes.
But I hope that it's going to continue to stir conversation, but at the same time promote healing on this subject, on this issue, and create more action and mobilization and activism in that space as well. So let's make sure that we use these art forms and these incredible stories that are being told for positive change. This is about moving us forward, not backwards. So we need to stop losing our young men and our young girls, and even some of our brothers and sisters and elders to some of this craziness. It's insane.
Exactly. So you all make sure that you support The Hate You Give. Absolutely.
So not to, I guess, unfortunately, somewhat of a appropriate segue, although somewhat somber, but now we'd like to take this moment actually to remember some of the incredible trailblazers who have transitioned since we were last together this previous year.
Your
That was beautiful. We lost a lot of wonderful angels this year.
Respect to the ancestors,
Man, no doubt, no doubt. So now we have a special presentation from Congressman Barber II to honor Congressional Black Caucus co-founder and former chair, Congressman Ronald Dellums.
I wish I could be with all of you tonight at the Congressional Black Caucus's Phoenix Awards dinner as you celebrate the life and legacy of my longtime friend, Ron Dellums. Ron was unlike any politician I've ever known or likely will know again. Intense and intelligent, fearless and philosophical. For more than 30 years, he served the people of Oakland with honor and integrity as a tireless champion for justice and equality in the East Bay, across America, and all around the world. I'll always be grateful for his outstanding work as chair of the Armed Services Committee and his leadership as one of America's most effective anti-apartheid activists. I'll always remember the kindness and support he showed to both Hillary and me over many, many years. And more than anything else, I'll never forget his inspiring example. Throughout his long career, he stayed true to himself and to his principles, and was never afraid of speaking hard truths to power. He marched to the beat of his own drummer, all right, but what a drumbeat it was. I'll miss him, but always with gratitude and a smile.
What was it in him that influenced you?
God, Ron's spirit, first of all, is awesome. He is a political person, a public servant, but he has this inner strength.
Race is still a factor in America. We're still uncomfortable in the conversation about it, but beyond the conversation, we're still uncomfortable about it, dealing with it. We have not confronted the fact, we have not confronted our basic humanity with each other.
Good evening. First, on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, let me offer our deepest condolences to Ron's family, Ron's friends, and his staff, and his congressional colleagues. We are experiencing a deep sense of grief, yet through the celebration of his life, we all can keep his legacy alive. Ron embodied the word service. He served his country in both the Marines and in the Congress with distinction for 27 years, and he was a psychiatric social worker by profession. He was a founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus and served as its chair. Ron loved the Congressional Black Caucus with all his heart. Now, Ron wanted a seat on the House Armed Services Committee. Imagine a former Marine, a true patriot, who came to Congress fighting against the Vietnam War. You see, at that time, some colleagues opposed his appointment because they called him a Berkeley Como Pinko. Yet members of the Congressional Black Caucus, he had the support of his CBC members, such as our beloved Congressman Louis Stokes of Ohio, and Congressman William Clay of Missouri, and all of the CBC for his appointment. Ron became the first African American to serve on the House Armed Services Committee, and later to become its first African American chair. Now, as chairman, he worked closely with his Republican and Democratic colleagues who respected and admired him. Finally, in 1986, Ron introduced the South Africa Sanctions Bill 13 times by 1986. But President Reagan vetoed the bill, Congress overrode the veto, and the Comprehensive Anti-Apartheid Act of 1968 became law in 1986 after introducing it 13 times. It was the first override of a presidential foreign policy veto in the 20th century and put the United States on the right side of history. Ron was one of the greatest progressive leaders and the father of coalition politics. Ron used his influence as a proud American of African descent to stand boldly and to fight for justice in our communities. Now, on a personal note, I was placed in Ron's DC office as an intern during the Watergate hearings of 1974. I soon became one of the few African American women in a key senior staff position on Capitol Hill. Ron made certain that Black women were hired on his staff in key top spots and were treated fairly and were empowered. In the early 1970s. Above all, Ron was a fighter for peace, for justice, and equality. Ron lived with dignity and was a man of integrity. He did it his way, reminding me of the scripture, 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. So for Ron Dellums, can you stand up for our warrior? Can you stand up for our champion? Can you stand up for peace and justice? Let's give Ron a round of applause for our own Congressman Ronald V. Dellums. May he rest in peace. May he rest in power. God bless you.
Yeah, Dellums, that was my guy. Tall, sharp, handsome, brother. That was my guy. Yeah, it's always nice to be able to look up to incredible men like that. As a young man myself, and there's so many other incredible, influential men who are setting incredible examples. So thank you to all of you who in your own way and in your own space, your own place, are doing, have done, and are continuing to fight for everything that we know is right, and doing the right things even when nobody's looking. So I personally thank you, and we all thank you. So shout out to all our incredible Black men and brown men of color doing big things. Thank you. Now please welcome to the stage A. Shawnice Washington, President and CEO of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Rucker, and good evening, everyone. It is wonderful to be here with you all this evening, and let me add my best wishes for the people of North and South Carolina. I'm a South Carolinian, and so I thank you in advance for your prayers. And I'm praying for everyone's safety and a quick recovery in the impacted areas. As usual, spending a few days reconnecting and focusing on issues that impact our communities is a much needed shot in the arm. It's always so wonderful to see the smiling faces and all the young people polished up in their professional best. While we have some pressing issues to work on together, there is optimism in the air, and that is a welcome change, wouldn't you say? Every year, the annual legislative conference brings together a broad range of community stakeholders, our elected officials, the business sector, activists, members of the media, students, and interested community partners. And with nearly 10,000 attendees, this conference is one of the largest convenings of African Americans to take place anywhere. This year's conference theme, The Dream Still Demands, has offered us an opportunity to remember our history of triumph over adversity and has challenged us to dig deep again and leverage the knowledge we can achieve what we demand of ourselves and our nation. The mission of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is to advance the global Black community by developing leaders, impacting public policy, and educating the public. And an important way that we pursue our mission is by continuously building the pipeline of Black leadership through our fellowship, internship, and scholarship programs. We develop our next generation of leaders who will continue our tradition of challenging America to make Dr. King's vision of equality, dignity, and opportunity for all Americans. Our leadership development programs provide transformational opportunities for young leaders to gain access to and experience with the policy-making process on Capitol Hill, as well as exposure to the professional development and networking opportunities. These young people will be our future members of Congress, cabinet members, and corporate executives who will help shape and fight for policy that benefits our community. And it is now, as it is always this time of year, my pleasure to introduce you to our 2018-2020 cohort of fellows. Ms. Frances Aguiel, Finance Fellow, Congresswoman Alma Adams' office. William A. Bishop III, Science and Tech Fellow, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. Ms. Chloe Brown, BP Energy Fellow, Congresswoman and Chair of the CBC, Cedric Richmond. Christopher Cox, Diversity and Technology Fellow, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. Malika Daniels, STEM Fellow, Congressman David Scott. Kevin Fashola, Foreign Policy Fellow, Congressman Gregory Meeks. Crystal Dolores Malam, Facebook STEM Fellow, Congressman ALC Hastings. Evan Mitchell, Women and Health Sciences Fellow, Congressman Sanford Bishop. Camille Moore, API Energy Fellow, Congressman Anthony Brown. Taylor Ware, Congressional Fellow, Congresswoman Alma Adams. Jay Arzu, Transportation Research Fellow, Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Center for Policy Analysis and Research. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. The most rewarding aspect of our leadership programming is witnessing how transformational these experiences are in the lives of the participants. Each year, we make it a point to have one of our participants share his or her story and make a special appeal for these programs. Let's watch. And after the video, you'll hear from Eleazar Shasha. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Representation matters. This is a place where we need a seat at the table.
The CBCF program ensures that people who look like me and you have a voice on Capitol Hill, and that when those decisions are being made, that we can be that voice for those communities who are so often left behind.
Our members and our staffers are making laws. So if you don't have a diverse and inclusive background of thought, of perspectives, there's so many people that are going to be left out.
So diversity is not just about numbers. It's not just about, okay, I want to look and see this person in the room. That's important, but it's also about having someone who has the right and the know-how and the personal experience to speak for their community.
what the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is doing with the Emerge 535, you know, placing one intern in every congressional office, that goes beyond anything that I could imagine.
One of the crucial elements of the CBCF program is that it provides housing and a stipend to those who are accepted.
So this stipend basically allowed me to live in DC. It allowed me to commute to work. It allowed me to eat every day.
To offer money and assistance so that we can go beyond our wildest dreams is so empowering and it's so impactful.
Just giving this young African-American male a dream and hope that he can accomplish that.
And then we were able to receive mentors from within our industry who were deeply invested in our success. Being in the room with people that looked like me, that wanted to pour into me and see me do well, was beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. And so I was ready to go out on Capitol Hill. I really was. I felt so empowered.
And so I got on the Hill and I started as a staff assistant, then I became a special assistant, and now I'm a legislative aide, and I'm having the opportunity to put my hands on policy. And this year I was accepted to Harvard Law School, so I feel like this whole experience that I've been able to get is going to greatly impact my time in law school and also the work that I do after law school.
Even today, when I walk into a room, I carry the confidence with me of knowing that I'm prepared to take on whatever the next big task is. CBCF gave me that confidence, and now because of them, I dream bigger.
And so I really do love the CBCF because that F probably stands for family. I know that if I called them, they would drop whatever they had to do and help me with whatever I needed.
We come from all parts of the world, life, and different life experiences, and the CBCF really brings that together to form a strong bond and really a community and family amongst the interns.
I really want to thank the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation for providing an opportunity like no other. Thank you, CBCF.
Thank you, like really, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elazar Chacha, and I am the child of a Tanzanian immigrant who sacrificed her legal career in Africa to immigrate to the United States for a chance at a better life. You see, like many immigrants who relocate to this country, my mother worked several jobs in order to keep food in our stomachs and a roof over our heads. My mother didn't live long enough to see me graduate from Columbia Law School with honors. Thank you. But my mother knew her sacrifices were well worth it when I would call her to talk about my CBCF internship experience. I remember telling her about how I had just met my heroes, President Barack Obama and my forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, at the annual White House Easter egg roll. I also spoke with her about visiting the amazing places I had read about only in textbooks, and how the classes we were taking at George Washington University and the events we went to on Capitol Hill had solidified my desire to become a lawyer just like her. But as I reminisce about my internship, I can't help but to also think about the many deserving students who apply to this program each year and are rejected due to financial constraints. For many of the applicants, the only way they can intern on the Hill is through the CBCF, which provides students with free housing and a monetary stipend. With your financial support, the CBCF will be able to provide more Black and brown students, like the current 2018 ALC students back there, with an internship experience like I had. But most importantly, with your support this evening, we'll be able to show these young people that they too belong here in DC and can make a difference in our nation and around the world. Thank you so much for your support.
Let's give Cha-Cha another round of applause, y'all.
Elazar Cha-Cha. Love it, all the way from Tanzania. Big shout out to Tanzania.
We thank him
brother.
so much for that moving testimony, and we thank Ms. Washington for her contributions to our next generation through her service to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation.
Look, I hope you were moved. I know that tribute was really incredible.
Yes.
And I hope it moved you like it moved me to contribute to the CBCF fund that supports these scholarships and fellowships and many other opportunities for our next generation of policymakers and business leaders and innovators. You can make your contribution right now. Right now.
Right now, y'all.
You can make your contribution right now by texting CBCF to 56512. Again, CBCF to 56512.
Matter of fact, we have a fundraiser thermometer to track in real time how much we are raising this evening, y'all. So pick up your phones, let your fingers do the walking, make it do what it do, and also make sure that you hashtag as well too.
All right, I see a little activity. Well, not really enough activity, but I see a little activity.
All right, we have to care about Generation Next, y'all. You know, just a little bit. Come on.
Now you have permission to text.
Yes.
Come on, kids.
Come on, make it do what it do.
Go for it.
All right. Okay. We're moving a little bit.
All right.
We're moving a little bit.
I'm still feeling a little chilly in here.
Yes.
It's chilly. The temperature hasn't risen high enough. It's chilly.
Oh my goodness. Okay, next.
Some of y'all just watching but not texting. Donate. Don't just watch it go up. It can't go up without you.
Okay. Next.
Sorry, that's not a bad start. We're moving. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Somebody. All right.
Thank you. We appreciate that, y'all. Okay, next.
That might have been a personal text. I hope we didn't see the content of the text message. That was a different hashtag.
Next, we have a message from the chair of the CBC Spouses Organization. Please, y'all, give a warm welcome to Mrs. Tanya Vesey.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure and privilege to bring to you warm greetings on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus spouses. Would all the CBC spouses please stand? Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your friendship and collaboration. The CBC Spouses Organization partners with the CBC Foundation, supporting education and arts programs that benefit our young people. Through a number of annual events, we raise money to provide scholarships for aspiring fine and performing artists, as well as programs that inspire high school students to be thinkers, innovators, and problem solvers of the future. What we do is a small part of the Foundation's mission to build and continuously feed the leadership pipeline. We do this while also being thought partners and support systems for the members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Few great achievements have happened without a solid partnership of unity in pursuit of this mission. The CBC Foundation, and the CBC spouses share a mission to grow, strengthen, and sustain Black leadership, Black representation, and ultimately Black progress. Looking back 50 years, we know that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. dared to share this dream because he knew that in addition to divine inspiration, he had the partnership and support of his incredible wife, Corletta Scott King, his cohort, his foot soldier. They were unified, willing to do the hard work it takes and the risk to make necessary sacrifices. Much has been said throughout this conference about the urgency of this particular moment in history. But Dr. King's dream demands of us that we build together through partnerships and collaboration and unity. I am proud to be a part of a group of men and women who are moving the mission forward. I thank all of you for being here this week. Have a great evening, and I will see you in the community. Thank you so much.
Let's give another round of applause for Ms. Tanya Vesey.
Thank you, Ms. Vesey, for that important message. And thank you all, and thank you to all the spouses for your support and partnership with our leaders on the Hill.
Speaking of which, now is the time that we get to lift up and celebrate our leadership in Congress. It is for sure a powerful reminder for all of the collective strength, the importance for all of us to make sure that we do what? That we vote. You all have to know our vote counts. Vote. Fortunately, it is a membership that continues to grow. Check it out. Okay, they're gonna check it out. Come on, voice of God. Help us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 48 incomparable men and women known as the Congressional Black Caucus. Representative John Lewis, Georgia's 5th Congressional District. Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton, District of Columbia. Representative Maxine Waters, California's 43rd Congressional District. Representative Sanford D. Bishop, Georgia's 2nd District. Representative James E. Clyburn, South Carolina's 6th District, Assistant Democratic Leader. Representative Eddie Bernice Johnson, Texas, 30th Congressional District. Representative Bobby L. Rush, Illinois' 1st Congressional District, serving Congress since 1993. Representative Bobby Scott, Virginia's 3rd Congressional District. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, Texas, 18th Congressional District, serving Congress since 1995. Representative Elijah E. Cummings, Maryland's 7th Congressional District, serving Congress since 1996. Representative Danny K. Davis, Illinois' 7th Congressional District. Representative Gregory W. Meeks, New York's 5th Congressional District, CBC PAC Chair. Representative Barbara Lee from California's 13th Congressional District. Representative William Lacey Clay Jr., Missouri's 2nd Congressional District, serving Congress since 2001. Representative David Scott, Georgia's 13th Congressional District. Representative G.K. Butterfield, North Carolina's 1st Congressional District. Representative Emmanuel Cleaver II, Missouri's 5th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2005. Representative Al Green, Texas 9th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2005.
No Ellison, Moore,
Representative Gwen Moore, Caucus Whip, Wisconsin's 4th Congressional District. Representative Yvette D. Clark, New York's 9th Congressional District. Representative Hank Johnson, Georgia's 4th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2007. Representative Andre Carson, Indiana's 7th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2007, 1st Vice Chair. Representative Marsha L. Fudge, Ohio's 11th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2008. Representative Karen Bass, California's 37th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2011. She's 2nd Vice Chair.
You can call me Lil Sid.
Representative Cedric L. Richmond, Lil Ced, from Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District, serving Congress since 2011, the Chairman. Representative Terry Sewell, Alabama's 7th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2011. Representative Frederica S. Wilson, Florida's 24th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2011. Representative Donald M. Payne Jr., New Jersey's 10th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2011. Representative Joyce Beatty, Ohio's 3rd Congressional District, serving Congress since 2012. Representative Hakeem Jeffries, New York's 8th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2013. Representative Mark Veazey, Texas, 33rd Congressional District, serving Congress since 2013. Representative Robin Kelly, Illinois' 2nd Congressional District, serving Congress since 2013.
The handsome Cory Booker, the handsome.
Adam.
The handsome.
Lauren.
the handsome Senator Cory Booker, New Jersey. Representative Alma Adams, North Carolina, 12th District, serving Congress since 2014.
Lawrence
Representative Brenda Lawrence, Michigan's 34th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2015, Secretary. Delegate Stacey Plaskett, Virgin Islands, serving Congress since 2015. Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, New Jersey's 12th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2015. Representative Dwight Evans, Pennsylvania's 2nd Congressional District, serving Congress since 2016. Senator Kamala Harris, California, serving Congress since 2017. Lisa Blunt Rochester, representing Delaware, serving Congress since 2017. Handsome Representative Anthony Brown, Maryland's 4th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2017, parliamentarian. Representative Val Butler Demings, Florida's 10th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2017. Representative Al Lawson, Florida's 5th Congressional District, serving Congress since 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank the members of the 48th Congressional Black Caucus.
There? There she goes right there. How amazing was that?
Yeah.
Yes, let's give them all another round of applause, y'all.
The
Fabulous, fabulous. I mean,
interesting when you see everybody there at the same time.
it was amazing. Like,
I'm gonna take y'all back to '68, because that was some black power right
that
there.
was some black power right
Ungawa,
there.
black power.
Yes. I think that was the most amazing thing. Like, everybody was up taking pictures. Like, everybody got to almost think like they mama and them, and the mama and them got to take pictures and everything.
Those are
That was
folks.
fabulous. That was amazing. How's everybody feeling?
A Capitol Hill soldier.
Everybody's good? Okay, all right. Well, we are moving into the home stretch, y'all. In fact, I want everyone, come on right now. Let's take a little stretch together, all right? We're going to do this, all right? Okay. Everybody from right where you are, come on. Reach your hands up, y'all. Let's reach. Let's reach up. Yes, reach, 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 reach. Go toward the center. Yes, good stretch, good stretch, good stretch, good stretch. Now pick up your phone. Okay, and give us a text, because you know we want y'all to do a little encore, do a little donation. That's right. Use that little finger. Type 56512, then CBCF in the message. Make a little donation for us right now for the young people, all right? And if you're a baller, yo, do big baller things and make a big donation. All right, that stretch was good for me too. Let's see that. The thermometer's moving. Look at there. I'm proud of y'all. Y'all making that thermometer move. Yes.
I don't really know how to stretch my thumbs, but I'm trying
You're
to.
stretching your thumbs, yeah. I think it's like you kind of like do back, like one of these things, yeah, right there, and then pull it towards you. Yeah? Okay. No. Okay, forget about it. All right, keep it moving, brother. You feeling better?
I think I got it.
You got it?
I'm good.
Ow, all right.
I really did just crack my neck just now, though. All right.
All right, well, let's keep things moving along.
No, he's right.
All right. We will now present the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Phoenix Awards.
They are called the Phoenix Awards in honor of representation of George Henry White of North Carolina, who served in the Congress from 1897 through 1901.
Now, Representative White was the last of nearly 40 African Americans who served in Congress after emancipation and Reconstruction, all of whom were strategically removed from office through the systematic voting disenfranchisement of African Americans during the Jim Crow era.
In his departing speech on the House floor, he said, and I quote, "This is perhaps the Negro's temporary farewell to the American Congress. But let me say, Phoenix-like, he will rise up someday and he will come again."
Yeah. And now, today, there are 48 members of Congress who caucus to serve the interests of the African American community,
yes,
the African diaspora, and the interests of Americans as a whole.
The Phoenix Awards program is a joint effort of the Congressional Black Caucus and the CBC Foundation to recognize individuals who represent the highest achievements, ideals, and interests of people of American descent everywhere.
Now, the first two Phoenix Awards of the evening will be presented to honorees who were selected by our annual Legislative Conference co-chairs, Senator Cory Booker and Senator Kamala Harris.
The first ALC Co-Chairs Award is presented to Miss Lee Porter.
About 1969, just 1 year after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, there was a couple here in Washington, D.C., and in New Jersey, they encountered a lot of what was called a practice called real estate steering, where black couples were steered away from certain neighborhoods. But yet the law was on their side.
The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is honored to present the 2018 ALC Co-Chairs Award to Lee Porter for her exemplary leadership in community advocacy.
Senator Cory Booker will present the first ALC Co-Chairs Award to Corrine Porter Stepney, accepting on behalf of her grandmother, Lee Porter, who was unable to be with us tonight.
Where's the award? Where's the award?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to be able to present this award to Miss Lee Porter, who is 92 years old. She's one of those people working in the vineyards of our communities. You may not read their names in headlines, but like so many of the humble heroes around this country, she is one of these African-American leaders that has transformed our nation. I am where I am because of her and so many other families. She is one of those people that from her own experiences said those words about our country that Langston Hughes wrote. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. And today, here to accept the award on behalf of Miss Lee Porter is Corinne, her granddaughter. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm super honored. I wish she was here. She wanted to be here, not feeling well. So I will accept on her behalf. The impact that she's been given, that she's been awarded to give to all of you has inspired me. I think I've had 5 visitors to my table in between bites, thanking me for her impact in their lives. So I'm super honored. I'm super thankful for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The second ALC Co-Chairs Award is presented to one of my favorite guys, Mr. Bryan Stevenson.
Let's watch his story.
We're trying to reduce the prison population. We're trying to end mass incarceration. I gave her my whole rap.
But in America, we don't talk about slavery. We don't talk about lynching. We don't talk about segregation. And because of that, we don't have a healthy relationship.
My work is, of course, on criminal justice reform and on changing the narrative around race and poverty.
The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is honored to present the 2018 ALC Co-Chairs Award to Bryan Stevenson for his exemplary leadership in social justice advocacy on a national level.
Senator Kamala Harris will present the second ALC Co-Chairs Award to Bryan Stevenson.
So there are words that have been spoken, and the words are this: each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. Those are the words of Bryan Stevenson, one of our generation's great truth tellers. Bryan Stevenson has figured out that if we're ever going to deal with our broken criminal justice system, if we're ever going to deal with our nation's painful history, if we're ever going to address the distrust in our institutions and leaders, we have to speak truths, uncomfortable though they may make people feel. And that's exactly what he has done. He has done it in his TED Talk, titled "To Talk About an Injustice," which has been viewed more than 5 million times. He has done it as the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Just Mercy, which is one of a handful that sit next to my desk. He has spoke truth in a way that has earned him an NAACP Image Award and a MacArthur Genius Fellowship. and his words have resulted in action. Because of Bryan Stevenson and the Equal Justice Initiative, folks, hear this, because of Bryan Stevenson and the Equal Justice Initiative, over 125 wrongly condemned prisoners on death row have won reversals, release, or relief. And he didn't stop there. Bryan realized there needed to be a physical reminder of one of America's darkest truths, a legacy of lynching and racial terror. So he became the driving force behind the powerful new memorial in Montgomery. Bishop Desmond Tutu has called him, quote, Bishop Tutu has called him, quote, America's young Nelson Mandela. And I am proud to simply call him a friend. Welcome, Bryan Stevenson.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I first want to just invite everybody here to come to Montgomery. If you haven't been, we invite you to see our National Memorial for Peace and Justice. We want you to come to the Legacy Museum. And we built these sites because we believe that we need to tell the truth about American history. I don't think we're free in America. I think we're burdened by a history of racial inequality, and I believe in truth and reconciliation. I believe in truth and reparation. I just believe that truth and reconciliation are sequential. You got to first tell the truth before you can get to reconciliation. And so I'm grateful that the Congressional Black Caucus has invited me here tonight because they're going to stand with us in this education problem. We've got to teach some things to our country. We've got to teach America that we are still burdened by a history of racial inequality. We're not free yet. There is smog in the air created by the legacy of slavery. We've got to teach this country that the great evil of American slavery wasn't involuntary servitude. It wasn't forced labor. I believe the great evil of American slavery was the narrative of racial difference that we created to justify enslavement. They made up these lies that black people aren't like white people. We're not fully human. They got the court to say we're 3/5 human. They ignored our pain. They didn't pay attention to our victimization. And because of that, we're continuing to struggle. And we didn't really deal with this problem, this narrative of racial difference, this ideology of white supremacy. And when you read the 13th Amendment, it talks about ending involuntary servitude. It talks about ending forced labor, but it doesn't say anything about ending this narrative of racial difference. And because of that, we've got to teach America that slavery didn't end in 1865. It just evolved. It turned into decades of terrorism. We've got to teach them about the black people that were pulled out of their homes and burned and drowned and menaced and hanged throughout this country. We've got to teach them that older black people are saying to us every day, they say we get angry when we hear about people talking about how we're dealing with domestic terrorism for the first time in our nation's history after 9/11. These older black people are saying, look, we had to worry about being terrorized all of our lives. We've got to teach our country that the demographic geography of this country was shaped by racial terrorism. We've got to make them understand that the black people in Cleveland and Chicago and Detroit and Los Angeles and Oakland did not go to those communities as immigrants looking for new economic opportunities. They went to those communities as refugees and exiles from terrorism in the American South. We've got to make our country understand that there's still a presumption of dangerousness and guilt that burdens black and brown people, and we are not free yet. We've got to make them aware of the fact that 1 in 3 black male babies in this country is expected to go to jail or prison, and that's not right. We've got to make them understand that we have a criminal justice system that treats you better if you're rich and guilty than if you're poor and innocent, and that's not right. And so I'm grateful that the Congressional Black Caucus we'd give an award to somebody like me. I'm just a lawyer trying to do my thing, but nevertheless, I am persuaded that we can make a difference in this country. And I'll end with this. I'm from Alabama, and I meet amazing people in Alabama, and I was giving a talk, and an older black man came into the church where I was talking, and he was looking at me sternly and angrily, and when I finished my talk, he came up to me, and he looked at me, and he said, "Do you know what you're doing?" And I just stood there. And then he asked me again, he said, "Do you know what you're doing?" And I mumbled something.
And then he said one more time, he said, "Do you know what you're doing?" And then that older man looked at me and said, "I'm going to tell you what you're doing." And this man looked at me and he said, "You're beating the drum for justice. You keep beating the drum for justice." And I was so moved by what that man said. I really was. I was also really relieved because I just didn't know what was about to happen. And then this older man pulled me into his wheelchair. He said, "Come here, young man, I'm going to show you something." And he turned his head, he said, "You see this scar I have on my right ear?" He said, "I got that scar in Greene County, Alabama, 1963, trying to register some people to vote." He turned his head, he said, "You see this cut? That's my cut. I got that in Philadelphia, Mississippi, 1964, trying to register people to vote." He turned his head, "You see this dark spot?" He said, "That's my bruise, got my bruise in Birmingham, Alabama, 1965, trying to register people to vote." And then he looked at me and he said, "I'm going to tell you something, young man." He said, "People look at me, they think I'm some old man sitting in a wheelchair covered with cuts and bruises and scars." He said, "But I'm going to tell you something." He said, "These are not my cuts. These are not my bruises." He said, "These are not my scars." He said, "These are my medals of honor." And so I'm excited tonight to be with the Congressional Black Caucus because I believe together we can do some things. And I think they're saying to me with this award to keep fighting. And because they're saying it, I'm going to stand even when some people say sit down. I'm going to speak even when some people say be quiet. We're going to keep fighting to do justice. And I'm not worried that when you stand in front of people who are angry and hostile and bigoted, you do get cut, you do get bruised, you do get scars. But tonight I believe that those scars and those bruises and those cuts are the way we earn our medals of honor. And I'm grateful to be encouraged by all of you. Thank you all very, very much.
Just fabulous, just fabulous.
I got to get my butt down there.
All right. Our next award this evening is the Congressional Black Caucus Chair Award.
This award is presented to individuals each year who exhibit the highest standards of dedication, ability, and creativity.
This year's CBC Chair Award goes to honorees John Carlos and Tommy Smith.
Smith and Carlos raised a single gloved fist as a symbol of protest at the treatment of blacks in the USA.
What I did is held my hand up in a cry for freedom.
We were athletes dedicated to making a change in the 60s. And that's what we did.
The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is honored to present the 2018 CBC Chairs Award to John Carlos and Tommy Smith, whose work and accomplishments stand as a model for the African community and the African diaspora.
Congressman Cedric Richmond will present the CBC Chairs Award to Mr. Carlos and Mr. Smith. Mr. Carlos was unable to be present to receive his award. Chairman Richmond will accept it in his honor.
Thank you. Thank you for this congressional honor to the Black Caucus Board and the Foundation. Congressman Cedric Richmond, thank you very kindly. And of course, you, the people who make the big difference, the audience. And no, this is not a beginning, but rather a continuation of travel through a time in a congested democracy that needs reminding that equality is a constitutional justice that has been paid for through blood, sweat, and tears, and we have been shortchanged. And the struggle continues. And the struggle continues. And the struggle continues. Our historical first forced arrival was in the hull of crowded ships, people shackled together. We landed on the shores of slave reservations, moved through abolition, sojourned through treachery, witnessed Reconstruction, murdered in the streets in our quest for equality, and still on the battlefield fighting for constitutional respect on all fields. Where does our strength lie? You're sitting in the midst of our strength, and that's you, the people. Tommy Smith have been fighting for over 50 years, people, and ain't no way tied I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy. I run many races in my lifetime and finished most of them in pretty good time. At least that's what my wife told me. In fact, she's sitting out there someplace knowing that I gave her comps for telling her this truth, not untruth. Folks, overcoming is not a dead issue. Overcame, we have many times. The dream still demands. So let us march on. People, let us march on until victory is O-N-E. Thank you.
I'm going to save Tommy. In the year of the woman, Mrs. Smith, will you please stand up? That way you can get home.
Hey, thank you, bro.
I love you. Come on.
I love it, I love it, I
No
love
doubt about it. The 50th anniversary of that moment, I believe, is October 16th of this year.
50 years,
Yeah,
wow.
so let's all take a moment, October 16th, put it in your calendars and just have a little silent.
Raise it up.
You know what I'm saying?
No
Yeah.
doubt.
I know I will. So, the next Phoenix Award is the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Chairs and Lifetime Achievement Award,
Which will be presented to the Reverend Jesse Jackson and Mrs. Jacqueline Brown. Let's watch.
I may be uneducated, but I am somebody.
And then freedom in 1965 became the right to vote. Since that time, freedom is becoming the right to survive or the right to live.
The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is honored to present the 2018 CBCF Chairs Lifetime Achievement Award to Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Mrs. Jackson for their exemplary leadership and dedicated service to the political empowerment of African Americans.
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, and Congressman Bobby Rush will present the CBCF Chair Phoenix Award to Reverend and Mrs. Jackson.
Good evening. There was a discussion in the Congressional Black Caucus about giving special recognition to Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson. I can recall one person saying, but haven't we awarded him before? And of course, Bobby Rush and Maxine Waters said, we don't care how many times he's been awarded. We're going to award him again and again and again because he deserves it. We said that Jesse Louis Jackson and Jacqueline Jackson, a couple who have reared 5 children, who have sacrificed, who have led rallies, who have organized, who have helped us to understand that we have power, are 2 of the most deserving human beings in this country. And so we are awarding both of them this evening. And I want you to know that Jesse Jackson has been one of the most committed, the most dedicated, the most effective civil rights leader of our time. And I want you to understand that he has organized, he has rallied, he has helped us to believe that we have power even when we didn't know it. And so, yes, they are being honored here this evening. And I think for many of us, 1984 and 1988 were defining moments in our lives when Jesse Jackson decided to run for President of the United States of America. And when there were those who didn't believe that he could garner any votes, he did well over 3 million votes in 1984. In 1988, it was well over 6 million votes. He has helped us to understand that if we fight, we can win. If we don't fight, we'll never know. And I want you to know that if it had been no Jesse Jackson, there would never be an Obama. Thank you very much. Let's give a big round of applause to each of the speakers who will come here with special recognition for Jesse and Jacqueline. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bobby.
I have never, in all my years of being a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, a member of Congress, never in all of my years have I been so honored and so privileged as to stand here before you this evening presenting an award to a man and a woman, a husband and wife, who have distinguished themselves in so many, many ways. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. I am somebody. I am somebody. Reverend Jackson has meant so much to me professionally and personally. I recall back on December the 4th, 1969, the Chicago Police Department had murdered Fred Hampton and Mark Clark in their bed, drugged them, and came in shooting. They came to my apartment the very next morning on December the 5th to kill me. I wasn't there. I had gone underground. My office, the Panther Party, the Illinois Panther Party, called Reverend Jackson and pleaded with him to save Bobby Rush. And Reverend Jackson told me to come to Operation Breadbasket at 9 a.m. on that Saturday morning. And then he would ensure that I would be arrested by the Chicago Police Department, safe and sound, and then I would be bailed out. And he saved my life. He saved my life. I can say so many things about Reverend Jackson. Yes, Obama would not have been president without a Jesse Jackson. But going back, Harold Washington would not have been the first black mayor of the city of Chicago without Reverend Jesse Jackson. Carol Moseley Braun would not have been the first African-American woman without Reverend Jesse Jackson. So in all of his years, we are who we are because Reverend Jesse Jackson and Jackie Jackson are who they are. Thank you, Reverend Jackson, for saving my life and saving the life of so many of us, generations yet unborn.
I think it is appropriate now to be able to say, to God be the glory for the great things he has done. I want to thank my colleagues, Congresswoman Waters and Congressman Rush, for the confidence and friendship they have with the Jackson family. For me, Reverend Jackson and Mrs. Jackson, Sister Jackson, who I have admired and called my friend, are American and international heroes and sheroes. They are not national figures, but they are international. And what I think we are doing tonight is acknowledging that no one honor is good enough for them. For I am reminded of Jackie's kindness and love of children, not just her own, but Native American children and poor children. I'm reminded of her civil rights credentials, toughness, and refusal to back down in a segregated America. Standing by her husband as he left the shores of this nation to rescue soldiers and people who others had abandoned, and only Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson could bring them home. So I am humbled as the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation to give to these two heroes, with the image in my mind of the magnificent family standing on the stage of the Democratic National Convention, something that most of us had never seen in our lives, and say to America, we too are Americans. And that beautiful family saying, keep hope alive. It is my privilege to be able to present the Chair's Award of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation and a Lifetime Achievement Award to Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson and Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson, our American and international heroes.
Thank you so very much. I feel so humbled to be here on this occasion before friends and contemporaries across the years, the civil rights leaders, the head of the NAACP, Brother Johnson, and Brother Sharpton, and Brother Morial, those with whom we've fought together across the years, members of this Congressional Black Caucus. We give honor and thanks to God, knowing that nothing is too hard for God. We fall down, we get back up again because nothing is too hard for God, and the ground is no place for champions, and so we keep fighting back. I want to thank, especially with Jackie tonight, my wife. We were at A&T in 1961. Met on the picket line. I was a sophomore, she was a freshman. And I said I was going to help her with the homework, trying to make my play. She said, you can help me, but I'm really working on a paper border dispute between Red China and India. I said, right. In all of my foreign policy work, Jackie went to Nicaragua first, meet Ortega, to Cuba to meet Castro first, to Lebanon to meet Arafat first, the Soviet Union first. Jack has been a trooper on international affairs across these years. I was very reluctant to leave seminary early and go with Dr. King at that time. I had 6 months to go. I said, well, I think I maybe should wait. She said, don't miss this moment. I really joined Dr. King and left school because of Jackie's strength and support. And our children are especially indebted to her. Whether it's Santita, who is a writer, producer, Howard University student, or Jesse Jr., former congressman and lawyer and writer, Yusef Du Bois, who is a lawyer, Jonathan Jackson, his master's from A&T and from Northwestern, Dr. Jackie Jackson, who has a PhD from Michigan State. It's all about their mother, Jackie Jackson. Jackie, I thank you so much. We're married. The first time she called me Brother Booker, I said, we'll get married on New Year's Eve. Because I thought I could then give away a Christmas present and an anniversary present at the same time. I learned better. But we did get married 56 years ago. I said, I'm delighted to be here tonight because in some sense it's a memory lane. Brother Mark, 1968, Dr. King was killed in April. And while in the Resurrection City, Robert Kennedy was killed, and our hearts were heavy. We were confused. And the Black Caucus met Charlie Rangel and that group at the Sheraton Hotel. About 900 people at that banquet. And that's when Archie Davis said, well, we've lost Dr. King. It's not the man, it's the plan. Not the rappers, the map. That's where that came from, that very first night in 1968. And then Congressman Clay said, it's no permanent friends, no enemies, permanent interests. Where that came from. The Maxine Waters, the audacity of power. That's where that came from. Fighting for the Panthers. We owe a special debt to Ron Dillon because he was their ally in a very public way during that season of tumult. Since I remember, we have come a long way since 1983 at the Hilton Hotel. Bob Johnson was standing outside of the lobby taking interviews for BET. That was the Black Caucus and the tax relief. That's where that came from. And the tremendous work that Kathy Hughes has done, that's where that came from. And then Harold Washington became the mayor. That was the biggest position we had in America at that time. We kept growing. Dr. King was killed in 1968 on the balcony in Memphis. Well, 40 years through the wilderness, and guess what? 40 years later, we're on the balcony in the White House. From the balcony, the blood of Memphis, White House celebration. But Mr. Barack Obama took us to the mountaintop politically. But our best days are ahead of us. 4 million blacks in the South tonight are unregistered. 2.5 million registered but didn't vote the last time. 8 million unregistered to vote. In slavery time, the Egyptians were asked, told the Hebrews to make brick without straw. We can make brick with votes, with the power to take our country back. Our best days, can you imagine, we'll have a governor from Florida and from Georgia, Espy, senator from Mississippi, Ben Jealous from Maryland. Our best days are ahead of us. So let nothing break your spirit. We attack sometimes unfairly, but don't give up. I hear the writer saying, I went to jail 1960, 19 years old, trying to use a public library. I'll be 77 in a few days. I've looked back across those years. I can only say to you tonight, my friends, as I challenge you to not give up. I once was young. Now I'm old, still marching. But I've never seen the righteous forsaken. Now their seed beg for bread. Don't give up and don't surrender. God bless you and keep hope alive. Jackie, please say something.
Honey, I thought you'd never ask. To this distinguished body of African American leaders, how grateful I am to be here tonight as you recognize my husband, Reverend Jesse Jackson, who I am extremely proud of. As a womanist, feminist, I am not afraid, nor am I ashamed to carry the name of my man. I was Jackie Brown at A&T when Reverend Jackson found me. And I saw this young man going my way, and I liked him. And I am so grateful that tonight, this wonderful body of men, you expect men to do well, African American men to do well. The greatest surprise is all of these wonderful, strong, courageous women. I am so happy to be here this day. I'm going to make 2 mistakes. I'm going to mention God in a political arena. And I'm going to offer some advice because that's the best use of our time, Reverend. It was Lamont Godwin. Many of you are too young to know this young man. I spoke with him about a problem for which I was not optimistic about the results. And he said to me, Ms. J, leave room for the God factor. First advice, leave room for the God factor. And what is the God factor? Leave room for God to manage the outcome in all of life's situations. That has worked for me. I leave God the room to manage the outcome of situations. Another mistake I'm going to make is to offer some advice to young people who may be inspired tonight to join so many on this stage. Don't let these lights fool you. Don't let these lights fool you. It was my daughter Dr. Jackson, who said to me one time, "Mama, little people ought not ask for big things. Ask for things your size. If you are afraid, stay home. Don't come up here. If you're afraid, stay home." The first advice. My mother used to say, "Every smile is not happy to see you." Remember that, young people. Every goodbye ain't gone. Every knockdown is not a knockout. If you find yourself on the ground, climb back up to your feet. Keep your back straight and look your adversaries dead in their eyes, and you'll be winning all the time. Thank you so much for this distinguished honor.
Keep hope alive. I love
Listen,
it, I love it.
I know it's getting late and some of y'all probably can't wait to come out of these shoes. But as a young bruh, I'm soaking up so much energy and excellence and love and wisdom that I kind of don't want to leave. I just want to sit at the foot of some of these incredible elders and just soak it all up. I mean, we back here talking and we like, every shut eye ain't sleep. Every goodbye ain't gone. Every smile ain't what she say? I mean, there's so much of it.
Every smile ain't happy for you.
That's right. Every smile ain't happy to see you.
Yes.
I'm stealing all kind of
All
stuff.
of them, huh? That's gonna be next season.
I'm still watching. I'm be talking to one of my nieces and nephews or something. I'll be like, look at here.
Wow.
Every frown ain't mad.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, let's keep things moving.
Jacking stuff all up, messing it all
The
up.
final Phoenix Award of the evening is in special recognition entitled the John R. Lewis Award of Courage.
Woo.
Yes.
Presented to none other than our most recently departed, beloved Queen of Soul, Ms. Aretha Franklin.
To Aretha Franklin, for bringing the passion of gospel into the secular realm with her incomparable voice, 4-octave range, and unparalleled confluence of heart and soul. Ladies and gentlemen, Her Highness, the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin.
I'm happy, I'm honored, I'm humble. Thank you.
And the winner is Aretha Franklin.
Thank you very much. I love you. Call me the moment you have another one for me.
And the winner is Aretha Franklin.
Thank you, Jerry, Aretha, Tom Dow, Cecil, Ruthie, LaRue. Hi, Daddy. Thank you.
All right, dear.
This year's winner, Miss Aretha Franklin. Ain't nothing like that.
Wow, this is so good I could kiss David Bowie.
When you're singing a song, what is the main thing you try to do?
Feel.
Well, you feel it and you make us feel it too. I mean,
you know, you amaze me. The first time I ever knew that you ever made a record, you were just a little bitty baby.
The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is honored to present the 2018 John R. Lewis Award of Courage to Aretha Franklin for setting the highest standards of dedication, ability, and creativity.
Congressman John Lewis, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence will present the award to Sabrina Owens and Vaughn Franklin on behalf of their aunt, Aretha Franklin, with a special thanks to the Coca-Cola Company for sponsoring this award.
Aretha Franklin. One of a kind. Sometime during the 60s, when we get arrested and go to jail, in Selma, in Birmingham, in Montgomery, parts of Mississippi, we leave the jail. Go to a little club with some change, maybe a quarter, and play the music of the Queen. Hadn't been for her music, the civil rights movement would have been like a bird without wings. Her music lifted us, gave us hope, inspired us to stand up, to speak up, and get in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble. So tonight we honor Aretha Franklin for the contribution she made, not just to America, but to the world. I loved her, and I love her music. One day I was in New York City, in a hotel, and she said, "John, come by. Gonna have a little birthday party." We had a wonderful birthday party. On another occasion, in August 1967, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was having a convention of his organization in downtown Atlanta. Aretha was performing. Aretha just kept singing. She got happy, and she continued to sing. Aretha, we love Aretha Franklin. So thank you for being here to honor this special and blessed woman.
Tonight, we're honoring a Detroit girl. As you know, I represent the city of Detroit, and I had the honor of having an amazing legend support me, love me, and included me in her life. So many people saw the glamour and the awards and didn't know what an amazing woman she was, and how important it was for her to support women. She loved cooking, she loved her family, but she would talk to me often about, "Brenda, you gotta fight back. You gotta stand up." And she would often say, "You know, we from Detroit, we don't take no stuff from anybody." I loved this woman, but most of all, I admire the ability of a woman to reach out and put her arms around a little girl that grew up on the east side of Detroit. She knew my journey, and she knew that wherever you land in life, it's about the difference you make, the relationships, and your legacy. So today, I'm so honored to join my colleagues to give to an amazing woman, a legend, the honor that she so deserves. Thank you.
We have a wonderful board that governs the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. And to Sabrina and Vaughn, during that time, we're discussing the opportunity to establish a very unique award named after a unique icon, John Lewis. The idea of our former board member, Lonnie Johnson, we jumped at the chance to first establish the award with the support of our friends at Coca-Cola. And then came the time to think of a person who would be so iconic, so worldly, so international, so moving, so giant, that could receive the first award. I'm grateful to John Lewis, who jumped at the chance to posthumously give it to a woman who has excelled beyond the politics of elections, and in her sphere was political in success and results. She encouraged those of us who were in public service, invited us to small, intimate opportunities to engage with her and other giants in the entertainment industry. She's known to have loved her family, loved her sons, nieces, sisters, extended family members. And yes, she is known, I believe, as the greatest musician, the queen of music, the queen of the world, loved beyond understanding. And we're privileged tonight to provide her with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation John Lewis Award of Courage. Thank you, Sabrina and Vaughn, for representing your family tonight.
Good evening. Congressman Lewis, Congresswomen Jackson Lee, Brenda Lawrence. On behalf of the Franklin family, we are honored to be here tonight. There are three things that my Aunt Aretha Franklin loved: family, food, and politics. For many years, my aunt appreciated all the hard work that the Congressional Black Caucus and Congressional Black Caucus Foundation have done to move the agenda forward on civil rights, human rights, and let's be honest, women's rights. To Congressman John R. Lewis, we applaud you for your commitment to public service. For decades, you have been on the front lines of the civil rights movement, and like my grandfather, the Reverend C.O. Franklin, who was part of the movement, my aunt tried to follow in the footsteps and legacy of her father, you, and so many others. Through her travels with her father, she learned that to whom much is given, much is expected. And whether it be soothing the souls of the world with her music, feeding the hungry of Detroit, providing shelter for those who lost their homes, fresh water to the people of Flint, or providing financial contributions to organizations that speak to those or for those with little voice in seeking better opportunities in jobs, education, and finding justice. My aunt never shied away from her responsibilities as a concerned citizen of the world.
At a very young age, civil rights surrounded our aunt. She spent her career supporting those who fought for equality. In the 1960s, she had a clause written into her contract that she would never perform in a segregated audience. In 1970, when Angela Davis was arrested, she was ready to cover Mrs. Davis' bond regardless of the amount. Our aunt stated during an interview that her father did not know what she was doing. She respected him, of course, but she was going to set Angela Davis free if there was any justice in our courts. Not because she believed in communism, but because Angela Davis was a black woman and she wanted freedom for black people. Our aunt stated that she had the money and she got it from black people. They've made her financially able to have it, and that she wanted to use it in ways that would help our people. Congressman Lewis, you helped pave the way to the door of freedom and equality for so many Americans, and she would be honored to receive the John R. Lewis Award for Courage. To Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, my aunt loved you, and she enjoyed watching you on television in the congressional hearings on the news. She would often say, "Get him, Congresswoman." And she would be honored to know that you made this night possible for her and our family. On behalf of the Franklin family, we would like to also thank the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation and its board of directors, Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence and the Detroit delegation for the outpouring of love and support, Congresswoman Val Demings, and Terrell D. Whitley of Liquid Soul. Thank you.
All right. Queen of Soul, y'all. I can feel the energy. It's so heavy right now. It's like
we'll always miss her.
Oh, man.
Yeah, she was the best.
We're speechless, truthfully. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage CBCF Chairwoman Sheila Jackson Lee, CBCF Board Member Kevin Brown, to present a special acknowledgement for A. Shanice Washington.
Put your hands together for them, please.
Video? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're delighted just to be able to say that we have had a mighty, wonderful leader of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. She has not been just a president and CEO. She has been convicted, if you will, of the mission and message of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. And for that reason, we could not leave this annual legislative conference or dinner without providing her with a recognition of achievement that she so much deserves. From being a simple supporter, one of our major donors, to rising to the level of board member and as well board chair, she now leaves us for future horizons, but not without our love, affection, and respect. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we will provide recognition to A. Shanice Washington. And I ask my good friend, board member Kevin Brown, to offer a few thoughts at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. What I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about what Shanice meant to us as a board at the CBCF Foundation. She came on board about 5 years ago and really made a difference. She put in some new programs like our economic empowerment summits that we've had across a number of different cities in the United States. She also put some programs in place that have really made a difference for the interns and the fellows that we have as part of our organization. We have a study abroad program that we had in Japan as well as we had in China. We also made tremendous progress on our fundraising, and Shanice, when she came in, she rolled up her sleeves, she looked at the organization, made a lot of good changes that I think have improved the governance of the organization, and I think her leaving the organization will be solely lost. So Shanice, I'd like to say thank you for all of your service, and all of us on the board are really going to miss you, and we wish you the best in anything that you do going forward. Thank you.
Will our board members please stand, and will you all give Shanice a rousing applause? Board members, please stand. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening again, all, and Madam Chair, Mr. Kevin Brown, thank you all. Let me just say thank you. My involvement with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation spans well over 25 years, and it has been a labor of love. Every position that I've worked in, from volunteer to supporter, fundraiser, and then now ending my stint with the CBCF as president and CEO. So certainly thank you to my board colleagues, most especially my staff, my incredible staff. And if you're anywhere in the room, just know I love you so much, and I'm gonna miss you guys. But I'll always be there for you. Members of the Congressional Black Caucus, thank you all for your incredible support. And let me also thank my spouse, Mr. Donald Washington, for always being there and being so supportive. Thank you, honey.
One more time, thank you, A. Shanice Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, what you have been waiting for is this exciting keynote address this evening. All week, we have been reflecting on the historic year of 1968, framing our discussions in the context of Dr. King's unfinished work and what the dream still demands. Our keynote speaker recently stepped down from his position of the North Carolina NAACP to focus on reviving Dr. King's last project, the 1968 Poor People's Campaign. We could not think of a better speaker for the dream still demands. Like Dr. King, our speaker is a theologian who understands that social and economic justice issues are moral issues, just as Dr. King called for a revolution of values in 1967. Our keynote speaker has called for a moral revival in present-day America. He is asking the question why. He is a powerful, unifying voice for the dispossessed and disenfranchised, and a leader in the fight and systemic racism, poverty, and inequality. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage the founder of the Repairers of the Breach, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, and pastor of Greenleaf Christian Church in Goldsboro, North Carolina, the Reverend Dr. J. Barber II, who drove here from North Carolina just to get here tonight.
It is a blessing to be here tonight in more ways than one. I want to thank God for the privilege. I'm coming fresh from the hurricane and the waters of North Carolina, and I want to thank all of you for your prayers. I also want to ask that we would applaud the waiting staff, all the people that have waited on us tonight. I ask you to keep all of the people in your prayers who are underwater and trying to survive in this moment in North Carolina and South Carolina. Thanks to Sheila Jackson Lee, our chairperson, and my congresspeople, G.K. Butterfield and Dr. Alma Adams, who are here. I thank God for them and for all of you that have gathered here on tonight. I want to talk for a moment about knowing who we are in times like these. And there is a text, since I'm a preacher, and I hope you don't mind if I lift one verse. It's in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 39. It says, "We do not belong to those who shrink back unto destruction, but we are among those who have faith and who work for the perseverance of the soul." We do not belong to those who shrink back. I come tonight to this Congressional Black Caucus because I know a little something, Brother Rowland, about this caucus and the strivings. I know about Hiram rebels before there ever was a caucus out of Mississippi who replaced that terrorist, treasonous terrorist, Jefferson Davis, the former president of the Confederacy. I know about George White from North Carolina, who gave the last speech of the last congressperson elected during Reconstruction in 1902, and he gave that Phoenix speech and said, like the Phoenix, we will rise from the ashes again. But I also know that the founders of the Congressional Caucus, they said in 71, it started out as a Democratic Select Committee, but in 71, they said that the caucus was not born to promote a party, but to be the conscience of the Congress, and to ever remind Republicans and Democrats of the need to strive for a more perfect union. You know who they were, don't you? Shirley Chisholm was the single woman in that midst, but oh, she was powerful. And Clay and Collins and Diggs and Hawkins and Metcalf and Conyers and Mitchell and Nix and Stokes and Rangel and Dellums and Fontroy. They were the founders. And upon forming, they said this: the purpose of this Congressional Black Caucus is to seize the moment, to fight for justice, and to raise the issues that are barely debated. Because they knew in order to deal with America, they had to know who they were. They also knew that they sat in those seats because those seats had been baptized in blood. Today, as we are here, this is the 55th anniversary of the killing, the murder, the domestic terrorism of those 4 little girls in a Birmingham church. But I want to remind every political elected official and everybody that holds an office, what we do has been baptized in blood. So we are here, my sisters and brothers, to cry out on behalf of those who've not yet been heard. We are here not to shrink back, but to hold on to the hope that America yet may become what she has long promised to be: one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that's why I raised this text today. That's why I want to talk about we are not of those who shrink back unto destruction. You know, Paul was a black brother. I hope y'all know that. When he wrote this, he was a brother. He was a brother. And Paul, when he wrote these words, the Jesus movement was under assault by a malignant narcissist, political leader in Rome. And that malignant leader, narcissist leader, had a bunch of enablers. And they were trying to turn everything back in Rome. And Paul said to the movement, because there were people in the movement who were thinking about going along to get along. And Paul said, we are not of those who shrink back unto destruction, but we are those who persevere unto the salvation of the soul. In other words, you better know who you are, when somebody is assaulting everything you believe in. The truth of the matter is, properly defining yourself and who you are is a critical philosophical theological discipline that has penetrating and practical implication, particularly when one is under crisis. When you're under threat, the most important thing is not what your enemy does, but do you know who you are and whose you are and why you're really being threatened. Knowing who you are is critical to your sanity and your ability to sustain a fight back when you are facing what Paul Tillich called the very threat of non-being and non-existence. Now, to be sure, my brothers and sisters, we've always had to fight to maintain a proper sense of self, because America has always struggled with who she is. America, this American project, has always had a kind of split personality, at times political and social schizophrenia, a great gulf between what America says she dreams to be and what she is in reality. That's why even in her great hymns, one of them says, "America, America, God mend thine every flaw." Even the hymn writer knew that America can be schizophrenic at times. Dr. King once critiqued this nation and said, "Let us be dissatisfied until America will no longer have a high blood pressure of creeds and an anemia of deeds." And then it wasn't it Langston Hughes that said, "America, oh America, has never been America to me, but I swear this oath that America will be." In America, there has been progress, but this has only come when those who knew who they were and who America should be dared to challenge this country and not to give up on her possibility. It amazes me in this moment when people keep saying that they've never seen anything like what we see now going on in America. And I want to know, what history class didn't you take? Have mercy, Jesus. This is the third time that a president lost the popular vote but was given the presidency. And that's not new. First time, 1877, Rutherford B. Hayes. Next time, 2000, George Bush. And both times things were bad. This is not the first time we've seen white supremacy and white nationalist thinking in the White House. Go back to Woodrow Wilson, who was the president of Princeton University. And when he became president, first he lied to black folk to get elected in the first place, and then chose not to meet with black folk, and then he played the movie Birth of a Nation in the office 100 years before Steve Bannon was ever in the White House. A lot of people don't know that statue in Charlottesville was not raised to give homage to the Civil War. It was raised to give homage to Woodrow Wilson and the return of white supremacy into the highest parts of our government. It was in 1965, I was thinking about this the other day, when the Dixiecrats were fighting the passage of the Voting Rights Act, Julianne, and they were so in fear. And many people were asking Dr. King, why are folk fighting so hard against voting? And Dr. King said, wait a minute, let me give you an analysis. And this is what he said in Montgomery after the Selma move. You know, you have to read something about Dr. King other than I Have a Dream. Y'all do know that, right? And in 1965, at the end of the march, he said this, Senator Booker. He said, why is there so much opposition to voting rights that will actually help white people too? He said, it may be said of the slavery era that the white man took the world and gave the Negro Jesus. Then it may be said of the Reconstruction era that the Southern aristocracy took the world and gave the poor white man Jim Crow. He gave him Jim Crow, and when his wrinkled stomach cried out for the food that his empty pockets could not provide, he ate Jim Crow, a psychological bird that told him that no matter how bad off he was, at least he was a white man, better than a black man. He ate Jim Crow, And when his undernourished children cried out for the necessities that his low wages could not provide, he showed them Jim Crow signs on the buses and in the stores and on the streets and in the public housing. And his children learned to feed on Jim Crow, which was their last outpost of psychological oblivion. Listen to Dr. King. He said, that's what happens, and that's what happens when the Negro and white masses of the South threaten to unite and build a great society, a society of justice where none would prey upon the weakness of the other. Whenever that is about to happen, he said, an oligarchy always sows racism and fear to keep poor black folk and poor white folk from coming together and changing America. Now, when Obama won in southern states like North Carolina, Florida, and Virginia, I'm not talking about that you had to agree with every policy, but when Obama won, the coalition won, that exposed the possibility of fusion coalition in the South. And with these changing demographics, or as my president, Derek Johnson of the NAACP, likes to say, metrics, with these changing metrics, it showed that the South doesn't have to be locked up anymore. Black and white and brown people can come together. And now what we are seeing, because of that possibility, is another chapter of America's regression reality. Now, since the publication of Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury, and now Bob Woodward's Fear, pundits and politicians have again questioned President Trump's mental stability, provoking the Twitter-in-chief to retort that he is a stable genius. Now, I leave mental health diagnosis to the healthcare professionals, but we would do well to heed Dr. King's prophetic diagnosis of our moral malady. The truth of the matter is the sickness, the socio-political sickness of fear and hate and racism has still not been cleansed from the veins of this democracy. And it still produces this reactionary extremism in state houses, the US Congress, and in the present administration. And I want to say this, it is bigger than one man and his personal sanity. Hear me now. In fact, somebody, or a good reporter, ought to get with some scholar and do an analysis, and the analysis should be entitled, What Went On Underneath the Tweets? You know, we used to sing a song, Beneath the Sheets. Some of y'all sung that before y'all said, but what went on underneath the tweets? Because to focus on Trump alone is to miss what's happening in America. Nell Painter, the Princeton scholar, has said that what we see now with Trumpism, not Trump, his entire cohort of extremism, is symptomatic of an often reoccurring iconography in our American history. We come to our senses as a nation for a moment, for a twinkling of an eye, and then we move backwards, and we have a massive, mean, and regressive relapse. What we are seeing, Senator Harris, is not just the problem of a person, and it will not be gone if he is out and Pence gets in. Can I teach a minute? Don't you think that if Trump was just gone and Pence got in, that suddenly things would be better? In essence, sometimes Trump might be a blessing because he's too foolish to be quiet. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Whatever Donald Trump's mental state, don't just focus on him. And if we just remove him, 60 million Americans were willing to entrust our government to him after they heard the extremism of his policy, the racist, mean, economically insane, and constitutionally inconsistent policy. 60 million people. And so if he's crazy, what's wrong with America? Whatever his mental state, in 2016, we, Democrats and Republicans, went through 26 presidential debates, and not one of them focused for 1 hour or 30 minutes on systemic racism. Now think about that for a minute. The truth is, America has almost lost, never really had, the ability to talk about racism. Now, we got to be clear on that, especially in this room, because nearly every politician in the United States condemned the hate after the violence by anti-black, anti-Semitic, and anti-gay white nationalists in Charlottesville. Almost everybody that's got any sense would say, we don't agree with that. Or when Roseanne Barr says something foolish, everybody says, oh, that's racist. We don't agree with that. But I stopped by to tell you, racism and white supremacy is not just about hate, individual hate. It's about power. And the question is not whether politicians condemn hate, individualized hate, moments of hate, but whether they promote the policy agenda of white supremacy. Because the fact of the matter is you can be black and a white nationalist. Because white nationalism is about policy. So if white nationalists are against health care, if white nationalists are against voting rights, if white nationalists are against living wages, and you black and you vote with them, then at best you are an enabler of white nationalism. That is why it's so telling. We didn't have one 30-minute debate out of 26 presidential debates about systemic racism. Before Trump, 2010, we saw the assault on voting rights that set up a Trump possibility. In 2013, the Voting Rights Act was gutted, thrown into the Congress. Paul Ryan and Boehner and McConnell have refused to fix the Voting Rights Act for 5 years. Now watch this. We call Strom Thurmond a racist, and he only filibustered the 1957 Civil Rights Act for 1 day. We have seen massive gerrymandering, massive voter identification requirement. We've seen the rollback of early voting and same-day registration. We've seen more than 26 states that represent more than 500, that represent millions of black voters engaged in voter suppression. We don't know what Russia did yet, but we know what voter suppression has done. And we didn't have one debate about this kind of racism. And do you know wherever there is voter suppression in the state, that state has the highest poverty, the lowest wages, the greatest hostility toward immigrants and the LGBT community, and the deepest cuts in education. So voting rights is not just about black folk, because what white supremacists will do is they will suppress the vote and win because of racist voter suppression, and then once they get in office, they pass bills that hurt mostly poor white folk. We haven't had one debate. When you think about how many unconstitutionally constituted state legislatures we have because of voter suppression and what the Brennan report says, when you look at the fact that we have children, immigrants being snatched up and kidnapped, in essence, because they're brown, when we look at the resegregation and underfunding of public schools, that's racism. When we look at the refusal, when we look at the appointing of racist judges to the bench, that's racism. Not just when Roseanne Barr says something. When we look at the fact that we just watched a person named Kavanaugh go through some hearings, and you all know if that was a black man trying to get, or a black woman being played for the Supreme Court, they would not even make it through a hearing. What we just saw was white privilege happening on TV right in front of our face. White privilege. When we see all the lies that President Trump has told, and we know if Obama had told a half of one of those lies, they would have called, that's racism. When we see the Senate steal a Supreme Court seat, think about that, in a way we haven't seen since the Civil War. And when right now on the Supreme Court, we have 4 Supreme Court justices that have been appointed by 2 presidents who didn't win the popular vote. That's racism. Nancy McClain in her book, Democracy in Chains, says that's racism, and she says, be clear, and she's a white professor from Duke. They don't want 5 seats, they want 7. 7 seats. And when Mansfield and Dirksen, a Democrat and a Republican in 1965, Reverend Jackson voted for the Voting Rights Act, and they brought Republicans from the North and Democrats from the North together. Only one Republican from the South, out of Texas, didn't vote for the Voting Rights Act back then. And yet, when Senator Harris asked Kavanaugh, was the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act settled law, he refused to answer. That's racism. I'm not answering you, black woman. And I'm not going to tell you if I believe Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act that says you cannot discriminate against me in voting is settled law. It's settled law. That's systemic racism. And we had 26 presidential debates on the Democrat and Republican side, and not 130 minutes focused on systemic racism. This is more than just about Donald Trump. We have 140 million poor people in this country, not 39 million, 140 million poor people that are poor and low wealth, 14 million children. The poor are not some small minority, not lazy people or black people. They are black and white from Appalachia to Alabama. 65% of Latinos, that's 37 million people, poor and low wealth. 60% of black people, 25.9 million people, are poor and low wealth. 41% of Asians, 7.6 million, are poor and low wealth. 67 million white people, 39% of white people, are poor and low wealth. Poor and low wealth. 38.2 million of our children are poor and low wealth. 20.8 million of our elders. We have 37 million people without health care right now, even with the Affordable Care Act. And for every 1 million people that do not have health care, 6,000 die every year. Which means, as I tell some preachers, that if you preach over a person and says God called them home when actually they died because we don't provide health care, you are telling a lie on God and a lie on this government. 250,000 people die every year from poverty. Yes, we should march in the street when a cop shoots a black person unarmed. We should march and stand up. But there's 250,000 people dying from government policies every year. More than die from heart attacks, more than die from cancer. And when we look at the fact that 60% of Latino workers make less than $15 an hour in the South, and that half of all jobs in the South are less than $15 an hour, and yet 400 families in this country earn an average of $97,000 an hour, while we lock people up who simply want 15 because they can't survive on $7.25. The battle we're in is not just about one person. When we look at the environmental dangers right now, the reason we're having this hurricane, like we heard my son's an environmental physicist, he said, Daddy, because the environment is warming up, it's messing up the jet streams. That's why these hurricanes are coming and stopping and twisting and turning in ways that we never saw before. And who gets hurt the most? Poor folk, poor black folk, poor white folk. When we think about there are 4 million families in this country that can buy unleaded gas and can't buy unleaded water. When we look at the fact that right now, copper companies in Arizona are drilling on Apache lands and poisoning the aquifers of the people who were first here, the Apache Nation. And coal ash is being spilt into the rivers, and pipelines are being built through sacred lands and across black lands and poor white lands. And federal deregulation could allow mines in Alaska. And our Alaskan brothers and sisters and the natives in Alaska are suffering because nobody ever goes and does a news report on Alaska. And then when we look at the unending war economy, they told me sometimes don't talk about this, Reverend Barber, but you got to. And this caucus has to talk about it. 54 cents of every dollar going to the military, discretionary dollar going to the military, and only 15 cents going to health care, education, affordable housing, and infrastructure. We paid more than $4 trillion since 2001 to fight the war on terror, while claiming that we lack the resources to provide decent medical care for every American. Our problem in this America is not that we don't have enough money, we don't have enough moral capacity. I have enough moral capacity. And yet, we didn't have one 30 minutes, Mark Rowland, one 30-minute debate on ecological devastation. One debate dedicated to systemic racism. One debate dedicated to systemic poverty. One debate dedicated to the war economy. And I declare that until we change the moral narrative, we are subjected, we have the possibility of getting a Trump over and over again. Because until we tell the truth, then people cannot be set free. And then the last thing that we got to deal with, and we didn't have a debate on this, is this false moral narrative of so-called Christian religious nationalism, where so-called black and white religionists, I don't call them evangelical because I'm an evangelical, black and white religionists have the nerve to go pray, P-R-Y, for the president while he is praying, P-R-Y-I-N-G, P-R-E-Y-I-N-G, on the poor and the very people that Jesus told us to care about. And then when Reverend Robert Jeffries has the nerve to tell the president at his inauguration sermon, God has given you the authority to build a wall. Knowing that Jesus didn't build walls, he tore down walls. And we haven't had one debate on morality. So my brothers and sisters, here's what I want to say. While whatever Trump's mental state, it is good that we're having a mid-year election because maybe people will understand this ain't just about Trump. This is bigger than one man. Some Republicans have spoken out against the president's tweets and antics, but they still vote for his agenda. Don't be fooled. They don't object to what he's doing, they just object to what he says sometimes, and that's only in public. And many Democrats, on the other hand, have imagined that Trumpism can be countered by a simple economic message that doesn't address the deep connection between our historical racism, inequality, and the rise of white supremacy. When politicians, some of them say his word about shithole nation is just tough talk, and others say it's racist and vulgar, his words, but they refuse to call his policies racist and vulgar, we are not really engaging in dealing with the issue of systemic racism. We face a challenge that is more fundamental and more potentially transformative than either party has yet recognized. This moment is not about whether a party is possible. This moment is about whether America is possible. Hear me now. We are in the birth pains of a third reconstruction and a third deconstruction at the same time. And America needs more than a new president. Yes, we need one. We need a moral revival. And in order for this to happen, we must know who we are. We, the people who suffered on the slave ships, are once again being called to be the conscience of this nation. We must know that in the 21st century, racism and economic fear still too often conjures a powerful magic which compels this nation to seek safety in hating the other, and a false security in nativism that has failed us before and will fail us again. And that's why we cannot be of those who shrink back unto destruction. But we must press on to the perseverance of our souls and the soul of this nation. The Southern strategy was designed to last 50 years. It was began in 1968 when Kevin Phillips told Richard Nixon, I know how we can win forever by controlling the South, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama. We won't use the N-word anymore. We'll talk about tax cuts, entitlement reforms, and law and order, and we will get big money to use this formula to cause division among the very people, poor whites, poor blacks, and poor Latinos, that ought to be working together. And we will fool people that the other people are their enemies, when the fact of the matter is, if you're poor and you can't pay your light bill, we all black in the dark. So in this moment, part of what we have to do is help America face this question. What is it that causes many poor whites, there are more poor whites than there are poor blacks, to vote against every program they need? What makes poor whites vote for a candidate who promises them they'll be against the LGBT community, against abortion, for prayer in the school, for tax cuts, and they can't see that those same candidates are against living wages and health care and fundamental rights? What myth will make you vote for somebody who's gonna take your health care? A kind of person that wakes up in the morning and the only thing they can think to do is take somebody's health care. And 2/3 of the people losing their health care are the very people that voted for Trump. What myth? And we've got to face this myth, but not in a destructive way, not in a put-down way, but in a way that can bring people together, that can bring poor and working class white people and black people together and Latinos to form a multiracial coalition. We must take on the myth and bring people together, because the truth of the matter is 97 million people stayed home in the last election that could have voted, partly because they don't ever hear their issues. Right up here in the Beltway, you would think nobody exists in America but the middle class. That's all people want to talk about. 750,000 fewer African Americans voted in the last election than they voted in 2012 that didn't vote in 2016. And right now, Ben Jealous did a study, and that study said if we would register 30% of the unregistered African Americans in the South, and then connect them with just a percentage of poor and progressive working class white people and Latinos, we could change the South. And if you change the South, you change the nation. But you can't have people coming to Selma, for instance, during the time of the remembrance of walking across the Edmonds Pettus Bridge, and there are white politicians who say they love what happened in the past, when Selma is the 9th poorest city in America right now today. We must work to come together. That's why a whole cadre of us, Derek, come together, said it's time for a Poor People's Campaign. Notice, not another organization. No, we don't need no more organizations. Lord help. We got enough strong organizations. We need a movement. It's movement time. It's nation building time. We need a movement to change the narrative and force this country to deal with the issues of race and poverty. We have to get poor blacks and poor whites and others to come together. The 140 million poor people in this country represent the salvation of this country. But if we keep going through elections and we can't even say the word poor, people don't hear themselves and see themselves. Wealthy oligarchs know that they cannot hold on to power in a truly democratic election. That's why we're witnessing an all-out assault, foreign and domestic, on our basic values. Now, in his final sermon, Dr. King in 1968, I don't know if Mark Thompson is in here tonight, but people will talk about, the sermon was entitled, I've been to the mountaintop. The problem with that is, the way this system does, it often makes us listen to the hoop, but not to the gravy. Huh? In that speech that night, if I read right, Dr. Jackson and others, Dr. King looked at the sickness of our society, and he said, my friends, nothing would be more tragic than for us to turn back now. So this is not the time to not know who we are. James Baldwin said it like this: we made the world we're living in, and we're the ones that are going to have to make it over. The time right now is for all of us, whatever organizations we're in, to remember that we do not belong to the people who shrink back when stuff gets tough. America needs a conscience in the Congress. America needs a conscience in the street. We need it in the street. We need it in the Congress. We need it at the ballot box. So I stopped by this evening, blown here by a hurricane. I left my folk back home because I just thought maybe this old country boy had something to say. We must come together in the movement, in the street, and fight in the street and in the Congress. Put down our petty differences. It's time to get the hell out of banquets and go to battling. It's time to battle. We must change the public conversation. These next election, America itself is on the ballot, not just who supports Trump. And those, we cannot let extremism and those who serve corporate interests say that health care for everyone is socialism. We need leadership who will say, no, it's not socialism, it's a moral social contract rooted in the establishment of justice for all. If caring for people is socialism, then the Constitution is a socialist job, because it says we're supposed to promote the general welfare and have equal protection under the law. If caring for people is socialism, then Jesus was a socialist when he said that a nation is supposed to care for the sick, the hungry, and the stranger. If providing health care and living wages and stopping racial discrimination is socialism, then ending slavery was socialism, and civil rights was socialism, and women's rights are socialism, and LGBTQ rights are socialism. We cannot allow those who want to change the narrative, to define the terms of the debate. If caring for people and giving them health care is socialism, then bailing out businesses that fail because of reckless behavior is also socialism. We must challenge those. We must be those who challenge Democrats to do more than they would do. And we must challenge Republicans to do less than they want to do. We must bring satyagraha, truth force, to the political space. We cannot fail to be who we are. We must be the conscience of this nation. Otherwise, the soul of this nation will be fatally wounded. And I stopped by to tell you that there are some folk that can't help us. They're not going to get up now. Frederick Douglass is dead. I went to his grave up in Rochester. I called his name. He didn't get up. Sojourner Truth is dead. They're not coming back. Ella Baker, not coming back. Fannie Lou Hamer, not coming back. Rosa Parks, not coming back. Dorothy Day, not coming back. Rebecca Heschel, not coming back. James Reeb, not coming back. Martin, not coming back. Malcolm, not coming back. It's our time. And together, we must march. We must vote. We must fight. We must demand the restoration of the Voting Rights Act. We must demand automatic voter registration at 18. We must demand early vote in every state. We must demand Election Day as a holiday. We must demand just immigration reform and a pathway to citizenship. We must demand tribal recognition for First Nation and Native Americans and Alaskans. We must end mass incarceration and the new Jim Crow. We must demand federal and state living wages. We must demand a right for all workers to join a union. We must demand equal pay for equal work. We must demand a guaranteed basic income. We must demand free tuition to public colleges and education. We must demand equitable funding for HBCU. We must demand health care for everybody. We must demand fair housing and housing for everybody. And not because it's a Democratic platform, but because it's a moral platform and a right platform. We must demand clean water, clean air, a ban on fracking and mountaintop removal and coal mining and coal ash pump. We must put a ban on new pipelines and refineries, and we must end military regression, and we must demand and stop the privatization of our military budget. We must demand a ban on assault rifle. We must demand the demilitarization of our borders and our community. We must have it. We must demand it. We must fight for it. Our vision must be bigger than Trump. Our vision must be saving the heart of this nation. And I tell you, These are tough times, Reverend Jackson. There's some mean folk out here, some greedy, and they're cocky on every side. Never before in recent history has so much money been spent to resist equality. It's pornographic, it's blatant, it's arrogant. These are troubling times. But we are not of those who shrink back unto destruction. Faith says stand up to Pharaoh. Faith says stand up to false prophets. I wish I had a witness since I came all the way through a hurricane. Faith takes on the giants. Faith refuses to deal with sinister situations. And I've seen it. I've been on the road. I don't know where y'all been, but I've been in Missouri. And I've seen young black low-wage workers and parents hook up with brigades of octogenarians, 80-year-old plus. I've been in New York and seen community organizers meet with veterans and religious leaders. Been in California and watched undocumented and indigenous folk hook up in Los Angeles. I've been down in Mississippi and seen white folk and black folk fighting in the Poor People's Campaign about poverty and against suppressing the vote. I've been in West Virginia and seen white women from West Virginia hook up with black women from Alabama. I even heard Nick Smith, a white Appalachian boy, a fast food worker for the Fight for 15, who's organizing in the mountains of Virginia. He said this, he said, look, I'm poor, I'm white, but I'm here. And this hillbilly is gonna join other poor folk because we got to push because we have no other choice but to push and to fight back. And if we bring all that together, we, notice, are not of those. Not I, we are not of those. And I feel, God, I feel something. I know the power of coming together. I know it biblically. Can I preach for 2 minutes? I know the power of getting together because when Moses and his people and that rod came together, Pharaoh came down and the Red Sea had to open up. When Esther and Mordecai came together, they were able to stop the plots of destruction against the Jewish people. When David and his rock and his slingshot and his faith came together, Goliath fell, and they tell me the next morning in the Jerusalem Post, it read, the bigger they come, the harder they fall. When Shadrach, Meshach, and that bad Negro got together, way down in the fiery furnace, God cooled the fire down. And somebody said they saw a fourth one in there and it looked like the Son of God. I know what coming together can do biblically, but I also know what it can do historically. Truth is, we've always had to come together. During slavery, it looked like justice had lost. But when Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass and white Quakers and white evangelicals got together and formed a fusion movement, slavery came down. Women didn't have the right to vote, but when a sister named Sojourner Truth and a Quaker named Lucretia Mott and a white woman named Mother Jones came together, they won the right to vote. Plessy versus Ferguson looked like it had the victory, but when Thurgood Marshall got white lawyers and black lawyers and Jewish lawyers together, they went before an all-white Supreme Court, one member who had been a member of the KKK, but they had to vote unanimously and bring it down. It looked like Jim Crow had beaten down injustice, and injustice couldn't rise again. But when Rosa Parks and Martin King and Bayard Rustin and Jesse Jackson and Glenn Smiley and James Reed and Jonathan Daniels and Viola Wilson got together, they tore Jim Crow down. It looked like apartheid was going to last forever. But when Bishop Tutu and Nelson Mandela and Ron Dellums and this Black Caucus got together, they tore down apartheid. I know it biblically, I know it historically. So no matter how you fight, if we fight together, we can win. How do I know it? Because I know it also personally. You know, because several years ago, some folks said I'd never walk again. They said I'd never get out of a wheelchair. I was 30 years old. I had always depended on my legs, but I woke up one morning and I couldn't move. I spent 3 months in UNC hospital. I was facing depression. Didn't know if I'd ever get up again. But for 12 years, I was in a wheelchair and on a walker. But over those 12 years, I remembered who I was and whose I was. And somehow, my mind got together, and my doctors got together, and my nurses got together, and my swim coach got together, and my therapist got together, and the prayer warriors got together, and I can jump now. I can march now because God helped me. And I'm telling you, I'm a witness. When we all get together, when we all vote together, when we all fight together, when we all stand together, when we all work together, what a day, what a day, what a day, what a day of rejoicing it shall be. It's time to take off the suits, get in the street, go to the ballot box, and save the heart of America together.
That concludes our program for the evening. Thank you all for coming.
Good nights and safe travels, darlings. Listen, don't forget to use our Uber discount code. Use the Uber promo code CBCFLAC18 and you can get 10% off all rides through Monday. Did y'all hear me? I don't know about y'all, but I love a discount. Use the discount code CBC FLAC18 and get 10% off all rides through Monday. Uber will then donate $3 for each ride, y'all, okay? So let's keep that thermometer moving up until Monday. We love you all so much.
Be safe.
On behalf of your girl Vivica Fox
and Lamont Rucker.
Good night, DC.
Be safe, everybody, and if we don't see you any sooner, we'll see you during the day with Vivica Fox, Wednesday nights with Lamont Rucker, and we'll see you in November when it's time to vote. Ben Jealous for Governor of Maryland, Stacey Abrams, Governor of Georgia, Andrew Gillum, Governor of Florida, and many, 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 many. All right. Good night, everybody.
When you get